Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
Reign of the King by Original Slacker. Sent back during the last moments of Earth, Luffy must once again begin his journey to become the Pirate King. Armed with the knowledge of haki and a grudge against the Marines, can anybody stop the future Pirate King? Huge shout out to all the warlords of this channel. You know who you are. Want to stand among legends? Join the channel membership and show your support. Adios.
Smoke drifted across the barren island Raftel as Luffy came ashore, the marine ship of an admiral following close behind. Luffy and his crew had made it, they had reached One Piece. Tragically, they were not the first. Marshal D. Teach was waiting for the triumph clear in his eyes. He had won. He had all three ancient weapons at his disposal. He sat upon the ancient ship Pluto laughing as the weapon Poseidon, also known as Princess Shirahoshi, was bound at his feet. In his hand he held the last ancient weapon, Uranus, a devil fruit, the Kami Kami no Mi. Straw Hat Luffy narrowed his eyes at his last enemy before his ally stepped in beside him. His pink hair held back by his flowery bandana and round goggles and his white jacket hanging off his shoulders, Admiral Kobe stood beside Luffy. The respective tops of the pirate world and the marine world recognized the threat known as Blackbeard and had working together against him. Zihahaha, laughed Blackbeard at the sight of them. I don't even want Gold D. Rogers' treasure, he yelled to the two men. You can take it and enjoy it during the last 30 minutes you have before I am reformed as God, and the world ends. The ancient ship Pluto shuddered at Blackbeard's nod, and on the other side of the world the planet began to disintegrate. Oh, snarled Blackbeard, my mistake, make that 5 minutes. Zihahahahahaha. He bellowed as he ate the Kami Kami no Mi and began to disappear as well, his laugh echoing throughout the island. We're done, whispered Kobe, shock evident in his voice. We have been defeated. Not yet, growled Luffy before turning to Kobe. His calm facade wavered for a moment before he continued. Reject me, he simply said to the young admiral, reject me and this timeline. Reject my memories and throw them into the past. Kobe looked confused for a second before Luffy's facade dropped. You ate Kuma's Nikyu no Mi fruit didn't you? He shouted, desperation evident on his face. Reject this fate. Reject logic. Reject the fate of the world. Reject the death of my crew. Reject me. He screamed at the astonished admiral's face. Please, he spoke, barely above a whisper. Reject me, and maybe I can save you all. Luffy fell to his knees, tears freely running down his face as he faced utter defeat. Luffy, began Kobe before he was interrupted as his ever-active Kenbunshoku haki picked up something. Oh God. He breathed as he sensed the earth disintegrating at a rapid rate all around them. I know, spoke Luffy. I sensed it as soon as it began. The end is nearing us. I guess it seems appropriate though, we started our adventure together at the same time. It's only natural it would end with us together again. A pained smile graced his face as he looked up towards Kobe once again. Sorry, he said as another tear fell, we're dead. Kobe turned towards the distance again and he saw the end of the earth. Great chunks of ocean fell away and disintegrated before Kobe's eyes, speeding closer and closer towards the island. No, yelled Kobe in shock. No, this can't happen. He fell to his knees next to Luffy, tears streaming down his face as well. Your idea. He spoke ever so quietly to Luffy. Do you think it's possible? Do you think I can reject fate? Luffy looked up towards Kobe once again. What other choice do we have? He asked. It's the only thing that might work. Kobe nodded, determination fierce in his eyes as he took off his gloves to reveal his paws on his hands. If this works, and you end up at a point before me, he said with determination, I still want you to let me join the Navy. I have prevented a lot of injustices in my career. I don't want those people to be unpunished the next time. Luffy nodded as Kobe continued. The Navy is not to be ignored as much this time though. If you defeat Blackbeard then we'll get our hands on the weapons. Nobody should have that much power. Of course old friend, said Luffy before enveloping Kobe in a hug. I hope to see you on the other side. Kobe smiled and placed his hands on Luffy's chest and spoke the last words Luffy ever heard as the world crumbled around them. Kotodama Shaku. Void. Luffy's thoughts were in a haze when he woke up in a cramped space. Gruff voices floating around somewhere close to him. You know what to do, right? Kobe, spoke a voice that was silenced for some reason as Luffy stood up and stretched. Ah! Yawned Luffy loudly. What a nice nap. Rubbing his eyes, Luffy observed the scene around him. He was standing inside of a barrel with an unconscious pirate lying next to him and 3 other pirates staring at him. Deja vu, thought Luffy before he noticed a mop of pink hair shivering in fright next to him. Kobe? Luffy's thoughts were in a haze when he woke up in a cramped space, gruff voices floating around somewhere close to him. You know what to do, right? Kobe, spoke a voice that was silenced for some reason as Luffy stood up and stretched. Ah! Yawned Luffy loudly. What a nice nap. Rubbing his eyes, Luffy observed the scene around him. He was standing inside of a barrel with an unconscious pirate lying next to him and 3 other pirates staring at him. Deja vu, thought Luffy before he noticed a mop of pink hair shivering in fright next to him. Kobe? Luffy looked at the other pirates as their mouths hung open. Who are you? He asked before the pirates yelled. Who the heck are you? In perfect unison. Luffy began to open his mouth to answer, but what interrupted when his always active Kenbunshoku haki alerted him to an airborne object headed directly towards him. He raised his hands to catch the unseen projectile as a disgustingly gravely woman's voice boomed out. Stop slacking off! Yelled the woman as the wall exploded, fragments flying everywhere. Kobe and the 3 pirates screamed in terror over the sudden event but stopped soon when they realized they weren't hurt, though Kobe was still whimpering. As the dust began to clear, a morbidly obese woman with stringy black hair stepped up, iron mace. Alvida had entered the scene. I ask you, who? Began Alvida before she noticed something unbelievable for her and her pirates. Luffy stood there with his barrel and the area behind him undamaged as he held Alvida's iron mace in his outstretched hand. You caught that? How? Yelled Kobe in disbelief at this newcomer's strength. Luffy turned towards Kobe, a broad smile splitting his face. Because I'm strong. He turned towards the enemy pirates again and tossed Alvida her club. Here, he simply said as he rose one finger, I'll go easy on you. The smirk on Luffy's face sent Alvida over the edge. You little brat! She screamed as she rose her bludgeon above her head. You have to die. Luffy's grin lit up his face as she brought down her weapon. Crack! Everyone stared in disbelief as Luffy's hand disappeared and Alvida's mace snapped. In the remnants of the mace's head was Luffy's single finger, sticking through the broken metal. Oops! He said sarcastically as everyone stared at him dumbfoundedly. I am. That's impossible. My bludgeon, screamed Alvida in disbelief. She, chuckled Luffy as he raised his arm. My turn. Gomu Gomu no chop. Before anyone could react, Luffy karate chopped Alvida, creating a dent in the earth at her feet which she promptly fell into unconscious. Anyone else? He asked, looking around at the other pirate. No, was the general reply, so Luffy turned to Kobe. Is there a boat I can have? He asked the frightened Kobe. Why yes sir. Kobe stuttered, frightened at the strength Luffy displayed. Good, get it. Luffy beamed at him. We're leaving. We? Inquired Kobe cautiously. Don't you want to leave? Asked Luffy. You're obviously not a pirate, so you must be a captive. Yes, I want to leave, shouted the relieved Kobe. She, then let's get going. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. I'm Kobe, boat. So Luffy, said Kobe as he pushed the boat offshore. Why do you sail? I want to become the Pirate King, stated Luffy with a gigantic smile across his face. What? Screamed a surprised Kobe. Pirate King is the title of someone who has everything in this world. Are you telling me that you're looking for the world's greatest treasure? The One Piece? You want to die or something? All the pirates in the world are looking for that treasure. Well, so am I, replied an impassive Luffy. I am. Impossible, absolutely impossible, utterly impossible. To become the Pirate King in the pirate era. There's no chance, utterly impossible. Crack, ow! Yelled Kobe as he held his head. Why'd you hit me? Because I couldn't stand you, stated Luffy as he leaned back. I'm not afraid of dying. Huh? Because it's my dream, and that's why I won't mind dying for it. Surprise was evident on Kobe's face. Won't even mind death. Besides, continued Luffy, I think I can do it, although it could get pretty tough. Tears started to flow down Kobe's face. Will I also be able to accomplish my dream if I'm willing to die? What? Will I be able to become a Marine? Of course, stated Luffy with a smile on his face, you would make an excellent Marine. Tears and snot on his face, Kobe began to cry. Luffy-san, I know it means that we'll be enemies, but joining the Marines and catching bad guys has always been my dream. Luffy beamed at Kobe. I've held up my end so far, Kobe. I've begun your journey to become an admiral. I hope you go to sleep soon. I can't keep this charade up much longer, and I have a lot to think about. That night, Luffy stretched out across the little boat as Kobe slept in the back. The sky above was dark blue, as if a black piece of velvet had been laid over the sky and sprinkled with shining gems, sapphires, azure, violet, peacock blue, delft, aqua, navy, steel, cobalt, and royal blue. The waves licked the boat softly and the air was blowing calmly. Luffy took in all this beauty and thought about the events of that day, and how he had lived them for a second time. I've already come to terms with the fact that I've essentially been sent back in time. Weirder things have happened, and I'm on my way towards Zoro once again. Why did Kobe always doubt me when he wasn't a Marine? It's hard to imagine him becoming one of the strongest men in the world. I hope he becomes the same man this time. Anyways, I need to think of a way to defeat the world government. I already have the Blackbeard problem figured out, just destroy him when I see him in Jaya. Done. The world government is a little bit harder though. Maybe I should snatch their attention quicker this time, and also start putting islands under my protection before Fishman Island. I also need to tell my crew all this without making them think of me as crazy. Arg, time travel is hard. I should think about this later though. We're almost at the island Zoro's on. I should impress him more this time. She, laughed Luffy into the silence of the night. This'll be fun. Docking, Luffy was jolted awake as the little dinghy he and Kobe were on hit the docks of the island. Huh? What? Sputtered Luffy as he rubbed the sleep out of his eyes and looked around. Yosh! He yelled as he leapt up. We're finally at the Marines' base. Yep, finally, alright, chuckled Luffy, let's go eat. He and Kobe began to wake towards what they guessed was the market district. We'll go our separate ways here, Kobe. You do your best to be a great Marine, alright? I will. Thank you so much, Luffy-san. You have to become a great pirate too. Although we'll become enemies in the future. Luffy grinned at his friend's words. Say, Luffy wondered aloud. I wonder which way Zoro is being kept at the Marines' base. Crash! Every citizen nearby tensed and backed up, merchants throwing themselves under their stalls. Luffy, whispered Kobe, it looks like we can't just yell out the name, Zoro. Yeah, stated Luffy while looking at the people as they began to relax again. Hey, said Kobe, I just saw a notice on the streets, there's someone called Lieutenant Morgan at the base. Crash! The people frantically returned to their scared postures. Ha, laughed Luffy as they walked away. What an interesting town, I gotta visit here again. That's strange, stated Kobe with a confused look on his face. I have a bad feeling about this. Kobe turned towards Luffy, concern written across his features. I could understand why they'd be scared after hearing Roronoa Zoro's name, since he could escape at any time. But why would they be afraid of a Marine lieutenant's name too? Well, stated Luffy nonchalantly, he CG bad, right? That's impossible, shouted Kobe in outrage. I'm serious, stated Luffy. Marine's base, it looks pretty ugly up close, deadpanned Luffy as they stood at the gates. Go ahead, Kobe. But I'm not prepared yet, besides, that incident on the way here got me thinking, stated a sweating Kobe as Luffy turned and jumped to the wall so he could look over. Luffy-san. Wondered Luffy aloud. I wonder where he is. He spotted a figure in the middle of a field in the distance and hopped down. You can't find him that easily, said Kobe as he began to follow Luffy. He's probably being kept in a secret room of something. No, said Luffy as he grinned back at Kobe. I saw something over there, it's probably Zoro. The duo continued running down the wall with Luffy occasionally checking over the top for the distance between them. Finally they were right across from the notorious pirate hunter. Luffy and Kobe pulled themselves to the top of the wall to look before Kobe fell back again in fright. "What's wrong?" asked Luffy. Th. That black bandana and green cloth around his waist. It's him. It's Roronoa Zoro," sputtered a frightened Kobe. "And that intimidating aura. It is definitely Zoro." Zoro sat in the middle of the field, tied to a simple cross. His legs were splayed out between him and a little blood stained his shirt. His arms and waist were tied to the post with rope. "Zoro," beamed Luffy. "Wow. Those ropes look like they'd break pretty easily." "Stop joking," shouted a frightened Kobe. "If he gets free he could make a mess in the town and even kill you." "Hey, you," shouted the bound pirate hunter. "Huh? Could you please come over here and untie me? I've been tied up for 9 days and I'm pretty exhausted," growled Zoro with a menacing smile on his face. He's smiling," stated Luffy simply. He talked, cowered Kobe. "I'll repay you," stated Zoro. "I could hunt down a fugitive and give you the rewards. I'm not lying. I'll keep my words." "No," shouted Kobe as he saw Luffy consider the offer. Don't do it, Luffy-san. Don't be tricked by his words. If you free him, he'll kill us and escape." "He can't kill me," stated a confident Luffy, "because I'm way too strong for him." Zoro questioned loudly as he heard the statement. Clack, a ladder was set next to Kobe and a small girl climbed up. Shush. She motioned towards the 2 men before she hopped over to the other side of the wall. Shouted Kobe. "Don't do it, it's dangerous." "Hey," stated a confused Zoro, "what are you doing here?" "Luffy-san," sputtered Kobe frantically. "Go stop her, she could be killed." "Bah," said Luffy as he ignored Kobe's frantic gestures. He knew it'd work out in the end. "Do you want to die or something?" growled an exhausted Zoro as the girl approached. "Get lost." The girl said shyly as she held up 2 rice balls in her hands. "I made some rice balls for you. You haven't eaten for a long time, right? This is the first time I made rice balls." "I'm not hungry," interrupted Zoro. "Go away," but began the girl again before she was interrupted. "I don't want it," shouted Zoro. "Leave me, I'll kill you if you don't go." Hiya, interrupted a snotty voice. Roronoa Zoro, snickered Helmeppo as he walked into the conversation. "Don't pick on little kid or else I'll have to report to my father about it." "That weirdo came," stated Luffy calmly as Zoro and the girl looked at the man in fear. "He must be someone important in the marine," said Kobe as he let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Thank goodness, the girl is safe now." "Tch," sneered Zoro, "if it isn't the lieutenant's bastard son." "Bastard," said Helmeppo arrogantly, "don't get cocky. My dad is a marine lieutenant." He snatched one of the little girl's rice balls. "Well, hello little girl. These rice balls look pretty tasty." Screamed the girl as Helmeppo took a bite. "Stop it." "Bleg. Horrible. You put too much sugar in it," coughed Helmeppo as he choked on the rice ball. "You're supposed to put salt on in these things." "But," pouted the little girl, "but I thought they'd taste better if they're sweet." Helmeppo threw both rice balls to the ground. "How could someone eat something like this? Damn it." Screamed the girl as Helmeppo began to stomp on the rice balls. "Stop it. Stop, he can't eat this anymore." That's so cruel," stated a shocked Kobe. "That girl worked so hard to make them." "Don't worry," grinned Helmeppo. "The ants will eat them all up." Hiya. Cried the little girl as tears began to stream down her face. "That's so cruel. I tried really hard to make them." Said Helmeppo as he held his head and glared at the girl. "It's no wonder I hate little brats so much. It's all your fault, you know," he continued as he pointed to a nearby sign. "Didn't you see what was written here? Anyone who helps a prisoner will be charged with the same crime. Marine Lieutenant Morgan. You know how scary my dad can be, right?" asked Helmeppo as he leaned in close to the girl. "You would have gotten the death penalty if you were a grown-up." "Oi," shouted Helmeppo to the nearest Marine, "throw this brat out." "Huh? I'm telling you, throw her out of here," he shouted as he grabbed the man's collar. "Are you trying to disobey me? I'm telling my dad." "Aye, sir," shouted the Marine, visibly frightened. He turned towards the girl and picked her up. "I'm sorry," he whispered as he tossed her over the wall. "Iya!" she screamed as she became airborne, but Luffy simply leapt up and caught her before she landed. "Are you alright?" asked Kobe the girl as Luffy dusted off his pants. "Time to meet Zoro for the first time, again." "Ow, my brain hurts," thought Luffy as he leapt over the wall and started the walk towards Zoro. The tied-up pirate hunter noticed Luffy approaching. "You still haven't left yet?" inquired a surprised Zoro. "Leave now, or else he'll go and tell his dad about it." "HMPH," responded Luffy. "I'm looking for someone to join my pirate fleet." "Pirate?" questioned Zoro. "Hey, so you gave up on life and became a crook, huh?" "It's my dream," stated Luffy firmly. "There's nothing wrong with being a pirate. I'd give up anything to follow my dream, wouldn't you?" Luffy knew he had hit the right spot as Zoro tensed, but soon he replied. Don't tell me you're gonna set me free and force me to join you?" "Yep," stated Luffy proudly, "though everyone seems to think you're a bad guy for some reason." "A bad guy, huh?" questioned Zoro. "I'll never join you because I have something left that I need to take care of. I could survive even if you don't help me. I just need to stay alive for 1 month. That bastard kid promised to let me go afterwards. I'm gonna do everything I can to stay alive and fulfill my dreams." "HMPH," snorted Luffy. "You would do anything but become a pirate, huh? If I were you I think I'd starve to death in a week." "That's why we're different," smirked Zoro. "Go find someone else to join you." Luffy grinned before he bent down and picked up the crushed rice balls. "You want these, right?" he asked as he offered the food to Zoro. "You look pretty hungry." "Yes," admitted Zoro sheepishly. "These are all muddy though," said Luffy as he looked the rice balls over. "Well, I guess you can't be picky about food when you're hungry." "Shut up," barked Zoro as he opened his mouth wide. "Just give it to me, let me eat all of it." Luffy stuck the dirty rice balls into Zoro's mouth as the pirate hunter began to eat the food. "Chew chew chew." Swallow. Zoro coughed and spoke again. "Tell that little girl." "Tell her what?" "Tell her that the rice balls taste very good, and tell her I said, thank you very much." She, laughed Luffy as his signature smile split his face. "Treachery, really?" shouted the girl, Rika. "Yep," beamed Luffy, "he ate all of it. I'm so happy." She smiled warmly. "That horrible person his reputation says he is?" questioned Kobe. "Nope," answered Rika, "brother didn't do anything wrong, it's just that the people in this town are afraid of him. He got arrested because of me. He killed Helmeppo's pet wolf because Helmeppo let his wolf run around and everyone got scared." "So you're saying that Zoro only got arrested because he killed Helmeppo's wolf?" asked Luffy. "Yeah, you're right," mused Kobe, "so maybe he has a bad temper, but chasing down fugitives isn't that big a crime either." "The only bad guys are the Morgans," stated Luffy firmly. "Yeah," agreed Rika, "you'll get executed if you disobey them, so everyone is afraid of them." Hiya, bellowed that annoying laugh as Helmeppo strode through the town. "Who dares raise his head? I'll tell my dad. Do you want to be like Roronoa Zoro? I'm gonna publicly execute him in 3 days. I'll use him to set an example for all of you, it's gonna be pretty interesting." "3 days?" growled Luffy, "didn't you say you'll give him a month?" "Who are you?" questioned a surprised Helmeppo. "How rude. I was only joking with him. Only an idiot would believe that. Hiya. Wham! Luffy leapt forward in anger and decked the snotty marine. "Luffy-san!" screamed Kobe as he struggled to hold Luffy back. "Stop please, calm down. You want to mess with the marines or something?" "You bastard," Luffy growled at the unconscious Helmeppo before he turned to Kobe. "It's time." "Huh? It's time to get Zoro to join me." "Luffy," screamed a stunned Kobe. "You just hit Lieutenant Morgan's son. We're gonna be in a lot of trouble. If the lieutenant gets mad he might send marines after us." "We'll deal with it when the comes," replied a cheerful Luffy as he turned and started to walk away. "I'm gonna go talk to Zoro." Kobe stood gawking at the teenage pirate as he strode away. With a bit of hesitation Kobe started to run to catch up to him. "YT. Yo!" greeted Luffy with a raised hand. The future first mate looked up and scowled. "It's you again? I told you, I don't want to be a pirate." "I'm Luffy," continued Luffy as he ignored Zoro's remarks. "I'm going to loosen the ropes. Then you're going to join me. Okay?" Luffy beamed at the tied-up Zoro. "I've told you clearly," hissed Zoro. "I have things that I need to do, besides I'm not going to be a bad guy like a pirate." Not all pirates have to be bad, said Luffy, just like not all Marines are good. Your present situation is proof enough. Zoro winced at Luffy's sound logic. Besides, continued Luffy, everyone already thinks you're a bad guy. I don't care what they say about me. I haven't done one thing that I regretted in the past and it will be the same for the future. So, stated Luffy, I'll go get your katanas as a welcome present for joining my crew. Don't decide for yourself that I'm joining your crew, yelled Zoro. So you don't want your swords back as a welcome present? Questioned Luffy, a smirk visible on his face. That's dirty, screamed Zoro in outrage. She. Well, I'm off to find that bastard kid Helmeppo. I'll untie you when I get back. With that, Luffy turned and sprinted towards the marine base. Is he planning on taking on the whole base by himself? What a fool. Wondered Luffy as he neared the base. Where did I find everyone last time? A movement on the roof caught Luffy's attention. Oh yeah. The statue? Remembered Luffy with a grin before he got sidetracked. I should get a statue. A commotion drew Luffy's attention back to the roof. Going up, he said to nobody in particular as he wound back. Gomu no rocket. Luffy shot up into the sky, the roof of the marine base quickly drawing closer. Keeping his hand on the ledge, he neatly swung his body onto the roof instead of overshooting it like last time. Looking around, he saw about 3 Marines hoisting a huge ugly statue and staring at him with their mouths agape. Hi. Smiled Luffy at the confused Marines. During the confusion, one of the Marines dropped their rope. The end result was fast and funny. Ropes were jerked out of Marines' hands through the added weight and the statue fell, cracking in half as it hit the edge of roof. Everyone stared in shock at this, and the man who the statue was based off of was on the verge of tears. His fault, said Luffy as he pointed to the nearest startled Marine. Capture that straw hat brat, yelled Lieutenant Morgan in outrage. I'm gonna kill him. Why? Yes sir, Dad, it's him, whined a frantic Helmeppo. He's the one who hit me. I told you he was no good. Luffy quickly ran forward and grabbed the helpless Helmeppo. Show me where Zoro's swords are, he said as he ran through the door to the stairs. Ah! Screamed Helmeppo as he was dragged down the stairs and through the hall. Where's Zoro's katana? Asked Luffy again as he picked Helmeppo up and stared the helpless man down. They're inside my room, sobbed Helmeppo as he pointed to a door they were about to pass. Good, said Luffy as he darted inside. Zoro's 3 swords sat against the wall. Luffy quickly grabbed all 3 and looked out the window as something caught his eye. They're already at the execution grounds, said Luffy as he saw Kobe and Zoro surrounded by Marines and, axe hand, Morgan. Surround the base, yelled an outraged Morgan as he stalked closer to Zoro. Don't let the straw hat bastard escape. He glowered at Zoro and Kobe. Ready, he yelled and the Marines raised their rifles. Oh no, shouted Luffy as he kicked the window open. There's no time, I need to get down now. Grabbing onto the window sill he backed up, stretching his arms. Gomu no rocket. Luffy shot out of the window, flying towards the execution site. Fire! Yelled the corrupt lieutenant as Luffy zoomed towards them. Bang! 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 Numerous shots flew towards Kobe and Zoro, their eyes open wide in fear. Luffy landed between them and the bullets and stood up, shielding the 2 men with his body. Luffy-san, cried Kobe as he saw Luffy get shot. Grunted Luffy as the bullets stretched his skin, their inertia pulling him backwards before he straightened up and yelled. It's no use. Bullets flew back from his body randomly, some hitting the Marines who shot him. What kind of human are you? Screamed Zoro in surprise. Hee, said Luffy as he grinned and faced the pirate hunter. I am the one who will become the pirate king. Luffy turned and looked at the Marines who were slowly amassing outside the execution grounds. Resisting the Marines here together with me will make you an outlaw. He turned towards Zoro again. Or did you plan on dying here? Zoro grinned at his remark. Are you the son of the devil? Forget it. Rather than die here, why don't I just accept your request and become a pirate? Yes, hooted Luffy as he threw his arms into the air. I have a companion. Okay, now hurry and get these ropes off of me. The Marines were slowly starting to come back to their senses. Axe hand, Morgan narrowed his eyes. That straw hat isn't normal. He must have eaten one of the devil fruits. He ate the ocean's secret treasure, yelled a marine in shock as other yelled more things. His ability is due to a devil fruit. Lieutenant, that guy is taking off Zoro's ropes. Don't let him take them off. A marine drew his saber from its sheath. If guns don't work, we'll use swords to kill him. Other marines drew their sabers as well and charged the two men. Stupid knot, muttered Luffy as he messed around with Zoro's ropes. Oi! Yelled a frantic Zoro. Hurry up, Yash! Cried Luffy as he held up one of the ropes. I untied one side. Idiot! Barked Zoro. Hurry up and give me my swords. The marines charged the last few feet and brought their swords down. Clash! Every marine stood deathly still. Each sword had been blocked by Zoro. All of you better not move, warned Zoro. You move, and I'll kill you. Zoro turned towards Luffy. I already told you I'd be a pirate with you. Either way, after this incident with the marines I'll be an outlaw too. But it's okay. I still have my own goals. I'm going to become the world's greatest swordsman. I no longer care if my name is clean or not. Bad guy, good guy, it no longer matters, as long as my name is known worldwide. Good, beamed Luffy. I would expect no less from somebody on the future Pirate King's crew. If you can't even accomplish something that small, then I would be very embarrassed as well. She. Hey! Grinned Zoro. Well said. What are you guys standing there for? Yelled an outraged Morgan, interrupting the two men's conversation. Hurry up and finish those two off. How about I finish off these small fries for you? Grinned Luffy, to which Zoro raised an eyebrow. Whatever you say, Captain. Luffy grinned widely, and then looked at the amassed marines. His pupils dilated slightly and Zoro felt his captain's power wash over him. Suddenly every marine fell to the ground unconscious, foaming at the mouth. She, laughed Luffy loudly. I left someone for you to play with though, said Luffy as he pointed towards a still conscious, though slightly dazed, Lieutenant, Axe Hand, Morgan. You're going to explain what you just did later, right? Asked Zoro in shock. As soon as you defeat Morgan and we get something to eat, yeah. Good, I'm starving and curious. With that, Zoro turned towards Morgan. Oi, you going to fight me, or are you too scared? Yelled Zoro towards the lieutenant, trying to get his attention. I did, sneered Morgan as he raised his axe hand. I'm strong, this hand is proof of that. Come here, you dirty ass, let me show you who's boss. Zoro put his white sword, the Wado Ichimonji, into his mouth and charged the marine lieutenant. Morgan waited until Zoro got close enough until he swung his axe. Zoro crouched under the horizontal blow as the axe split in half the fence next to him. Zoro bit the hilt of his sword harder as he began his dance of death. His swords carved an X into the marine lieutenant's chest before Zoro used Wado Ichimonji to deliver the last wound. Swinging upwards the lieutenant's axe arm, Zoro cut all the tendons. Axe hand. Morgan would never be able to use his axe again. Zoro came to a stop behind the lieutenant as he fell over unconscious, blood flowing out of his wounds and pooling around him. Too shallow, stated Zoro, he'll live. Then he collapsed. Zoro? So hungry, groaned Zoro, need food. She, Yash. Let's go eat then, grinned Luffy before adding, afterwards we can have a lot of sake too. Zoro grinned at his new captain, you got that right. Restaurant, I'm full, exclaimed Zoro as he leaned back in his chair. I haven't eaten for 9 days, I almost starved to death. Then why did you say you would last a month? Questioned Luffy as he shoveled food into his mouth. You're so scrawny, mused Zoro, how come you can still eat more than me? Sorry, apologized Kobe to the owner, even I ate quite a lot. Don't worry, said Rika's mom gladly, keep eating, you saved our town. So, asked Zoro, what are your next plans? We're heading for the Grand Line, exclaimed Luffy. On the way there we're going to get a navigator, a marksman, a cook, and a boat. Boat? Questioned Zoro. You don't have a boat? Luffy pointed to the dinghy in the docks. I have that right now, but we'll get a boat soon, I'm sure of it. HMPH, whatever you say, Captain. She. Luffy-san, stuttered Kobe, even though we just met. Are we friends? Yep, beamed Luffy, even though we had to part, we'll always be friends. I never had friends growing up, monologued Kobe, every time I would be picked on, and no one would ever stand up for me. The two of you though, you taught me to live by my dream, finished Kobe with determination on his face. Excuse me, interrupted somebody. Kobe, Zoro and Luffy turned towards the door. There in the doorway stood a single marine, with many others waiting outside. We are wondering, are you really pirates? Asked the marine. Luffy smiled, yep, I just found my first crew member, that would officially make us pirates now. The marine nodded, even though you are pirates, in reality, you saved our town and base. For that we are grateful. Since you are pirates though, as marines we cannot allow you to stay any longer. Please leave this place immediately. As for the events that occurred here, we will be reporting it to the headquarters. Ignoring the shouts of outrage from the grateful townsfolk, Luffy stood up. Well then, let's go. Thank you for your food, ma'am. Luffy bowed slightly to Rika's mother. Luffy-san, murmured Kobe, but he and Zoro walked past him, not giving him a second glance. Aren't you with their group? The marine asked Kobe. Stuttered Kobe, I'm not with them. The marine narrowed his eyes. Please hold on. He addressed Luffy and Zoro. Is he telling the truth? Luffy grinned, he's just someone who I rescued from slavery on a pirate ship. He's not part of my group, his dream is to be a marine. Kobe looked at the marine captain. Please let me join the marines. Even if it's chores, I will still do them. Despite your past association with pirates, I will still allow you to join. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Luffy and Zoro turned their backs to the scene and walked out the door with smiles on their faces. As they reached the docks, Kobe came running up behind them. Thank you very much, he shouted as he saluted the duo. I will never forget you for the rest of my life. HMPH, a marine saluting pirates. Mused Zoro, I've never seen that before. Kobe, yelled Luffy as he and Zoro got into their boat, we'll meet again someday. Group salute, yelled the marine captain as every marine assembled behind Kobe and saluted the two pirates. She, laughed Luffy as he pushed the boat from the docks. Yahoo, we're off. Zoro smiled at his captain's antics before he remembered something. Hey Luffy, he asked, what was the thing you did to all those marines during the fight that made them pass out? Luffy turned towards him. That was hockey, he said. I'll need to teach that to you. It's necessary to fight Logia devil fruit users on the Grand Line. Plus, it's a pretty awesome power boost. Go on, said the swordsman as he leaned forward in anticipation. Well, explained Luffy, there are 3 kinds of hockey. What I used to knock out those marines is known as Haoshoku hockey, or Conqueror's hockey. This type of hockey grants the user the ability to dominate the wills of others. It is mostly used to knock weak-willed individuals unconscious. Interesting, said Zoro with a gleam in his eye. Unfortunately, continued Luffy, this kind of hockey cannot be achieved through training. Either you are born with this or you aren't. At this Zoro's eyes lost their gleam. Dang, he said, that would have been a fun and convenient power. Shishi, laughed Luffy, don't worry, the 2 other forms of hockey can be gained through training. Oh, said Zoro as he raised his eyebrow, what do they do? Well, said Luffy, there's Kenbunshoku hockey, or observation hockey. This hockey allows the user to sense the presence of others, even if they are concealed from view or too far to see naturally. The user can also use this hockey to predict an opponent's moves shortly before they make them, thereby making the attack much easier to evade with enough skill. Luffy laughed again as he saw Zoro's face light up, no doubt imagining the possibilities. She, there's another kind of hockey too. I think this one would be more suited for you. Stated Luffy as Zoro leaned in further, literally sitting on the edge of his seat in anticipation. It's called Busashoku hockey, or armament hockey. This hockey is used to put an invisible layer of armor over any part of your body or weapon. Naturally, this invisible armor can be used as a weapon to strike others with. It can be used to augment the user's own attacks, projected ahead of the user as pure brute force, or imbued in weapons to increase their effectiveness. Any attack enhanced by Busashoku hockey hits immensely harder than it would normally be without it. It also allows attacks to connect with and hurt users of the Logia-type devil fruit. A heavy concentration of this hockey can be used to harden parts of one's body, turning the area black, thus making the user denser and more formidable, and giving their attacks greater power. When can we start training? Asked a clearly excited Zoro. She, tomorrow we can start. Get a good rest beforehand though. It's going to be a long day. With that, Luffy laid back into the boat and stretched out before tilting his hat over his eyes. Great, he thought, I've gotten Zoro to join my crew again. Everything is going smoothly too, and I think I know when I should tell the crew my secret. I'll tell Zoro first, and then the rest all together after we cross into the Grand Line. Luffy's smile widened. Next is Nami and Buggy, right? Shi. Let's make a lasting impression. First, began Luffy as he sat across from Zoro in their small boat, we meditate a lot. Why? Asked Zoro as he yawned. Haki originates from a user's spirit, not their body. Explained Luffy, you need to get more in touch with your spirit to be able to use Haki correctly. Doesn't sound so hard, muttered Zoro. It took me 6 months to learn, pouted Luffy, but you'll have a head start because you're a swordsman who puts his soul into every attack. Shi. Well, okay then, Captain, said Zoro as he got into his meditation position. Afterwards, what do I do? Let your spirit fill every part of your body, let it flow through your blood. We'll get into specifics later. Zoro shut his eyes and concentrated on shutting everything out except for himself. He imagined himself sitting in an endless empty white area. Nothing there except for him. He was the only thing in this white expanse. Slowly he began to let his body grow, filling all the space and the space filling him. Inhale, Zoro filled himself more, the breath he sucked in making his blood flow faster. Exhale, he slowly started to circulate his blood, mixing in his spirit little by little. Inhale, Zoro poured more and more of his spirit through his body. Exhale, he poured in all his ambitions of being the world's greatest swordsman, and at that moment he felt something change. He quickly opened his eyes and looked himself over. His arms were a shiny black chrome color for a second before they faded into normality. Shi, laughed Luffy from the front of the boat. Your spirit became visible for a moment. That's some will you've got there. It only took you 12 hours too. You're picking this up quicker than I did. It took me 3 days. 12 hours? Thought Zoro as he began to notice some things. The sun was low in the sky. The weather was a little bit rougher, and half of their food was gone. Luffy, shouted Zoro. Why did you eat so much food? We don't know how much longer we'll be out here. Until noon tomorrow. What? We'll reach land about noon tomorrow, stated Luffy confidently. How do you know? Questioned Zoro, and eyebrow raised. Call it a captain's sixth sense, smirked Luffy, and knowledge from the future. HMPH. Grunted Zoro as he fished some food from the bag and laid back. So, what's next with the Haki training? Keep meditating, become familiar with your soul, stated Luffy as he laid back too. Battles with this objective in mind will speed up the training. Good thing we're probably going to fight tomorrow. Huh? Sixth sense, Zoro, smirked Luffy, remember the sixth sense? Whatever. Next day, Luffy sat on the boat facing Zoro once again as the swordsman meditated. I wonder how long it will take Zoro to be able to use Busashoku Haki in battle. He thought to himself. Will he be able to when he fights the world's strongest swordsman, Hawkeye's Dracula Mihawk? Well, it's not like it'll make a difference. He laid back and watched the clouds roll across the sky for some time, giving the meditating Zoro a few cursory glances to check up on his progress. Around midday, a bird caught Luffy's eye. He sat up and punched Zoro, bringing him out of his meditation. Oi, barked Zoro, what the hell? Look, said Luffy as he pointed out the bird, it's a seagull, the Keicho Pinky, we're getting close to land. Grinned Luffy widely as he looked back at Zoro. See, he taunted with a smirk, you shouldn't doubt a captain's sixth sense. Sigh, lucky guess? Shi, want to race? Grinned Luffy widely. What, do you want to race to the island? Said Luffy again. How can we race? Asked a confused Zoro. A friend of mine can walk on air, explained Luffy, chuckling slightly at Zoro's surprised expression. I'm not as good as him, but I can run on the sea pretty easily. As long as I keep running, there's nothing to worry about. Zoro narrowed his eyes and studied his new captain. After a few seconds he spoke. Show me, he requested. So race? Asked Luffy. Sure, said Zoro, just show me your water walk. Shi, Luffy stood up. You might want to get ready, he said, I can run pretty fast. Zoro didn't doubt his captain's words as he prepared the 2 boat oars. This'll be a good workout, he grunted. "Now," said Luffy as he positioned himself near the front of the boat, "watch this." Luffy leaned onto his front leg and concentrated all of his energy into his lower half. He shot off the boat, pushing the vessel back a few feet and began to run on the sea. As soon as the bottom as his sandal touched the waves, he kicked off the water with all of his strength, rocketing away from the stunned Zoro. "Woohoo!" yelled Luffy as the boat fell behind him and the outline of an island appeared before him. Faster and faster he ran, pushing off of air a few times before going back to the sea. Orangetown quickly came into view and Luffy ran straight for the docks. Nearing the Orangetown docks, Luffy jumped, intent on landing on the docks, but he put too much power into his kick and flew forwards. Over the docks and numerous houses he sailed before roughly crashing into the street. Crash! Ah! Screamed someone through the dust. Someone fell from the sky? Damn it! Muttered Luffy as he picked himself up. I overshot that way too much. The smoke began to clear and the people around him fell back in surprise. What the? Yelled a man. He's still alive. Luffy glanced around, taking in his surroundings. Behind him were 3 shocked pirates from Buggy's crew, and in front of him was his navigator. Nami, thought Luffy in excitement as he laid his eyes on the orange-haired woman. Oh, boss, she yelled out, surprising Luffy for a second, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you to save me, I'll leave everything to you, she said as she turned and ran. I almost thought she remembered me for a second, thought Luffy sadly as he watched her leave. Her boss is still here, sneered one of the pirate, which made Luffy turn around and look at the 3 enemies. That's true, agreed another as the trio approached the young Straw Hat. Luffy sighed as he raised his arm to defeat the 3. As soon as Luffy began to move, the center man threw a right hook. Luffy simply leaned back a little and dodged the fist before taking 2 quick steps forwards and punching the man in his gut. Lackey number 1 slid back a few feet before falling down, unconscious at the feet of moron number 2 and weakling number 3. You, they screamed in unison as they raised their swords. Damn you! They charged. Luffy took 1 step forwards, leaning to the left and dodging the swing of the right man before he countered, burying his elbow into the unlucky henchman's face. Without slowing down, Luffy stepped towards the final man, getting close to him before he could swing his sword. Ah! The man yelled in fury, but he was quickly silenced as Luffy forcefully closed his jaw with an uppercut. Taking a step back, Luffy surveyed the 3 unconscious pirates before turning to the roof of a nearby building where Nami sat. Wow, she said with delight, you're really strong. You beat those guys with swords bare-handed. You only used your left hand too. She, laughed Luffy as his future Nakama complimented him. I am a thief who only steals treasure from pirates. Explained Nami. What to be partners? My name is Nami, she finished with a smile. Luffy smiled and said, let's go get something to eat. Hang on a second, yelled Nami as she leapt down from the building, wait up for me. She jogged up to Luffy. I know where we can get some food, she said with a smile before leading Luffy into a nearby house. Nami and Luffy entered the humble dwelling. We should grab some food and leave, he said as Nami strode into the kitchen. Why? She yelled back, the owners aren't even here. Everyone in this village is hiding in a shelter outside of the town. They are trying to avoid conflict with the Buggy pirate fleet. Their leader is Buggy the Clown. He's a famous pirate off cannons. When a bunch of kids from a village where you once stayed made fun of his nose, he used a cannon to wipe out the whole village. It's also said that he's got a strange power. Everyone is very afraid of him. She, I'm not afraid of him, chuckled Luffy. I'm not afraid of getting caught in someone else's house either. I just have to get back to my crew. Eh? Questioned Nami as she stuck her head through the kitchen door. You got separated from your crew? How many people are in your crew? Only 1. Replied Luffy, speaking of which, you should check for some sake, he really likes it. HMPH. Nami pouted as she went back into the kitchen. A few seconds later she came back out, a sack of food slung on her back and 2 bottles of sake in her hand. Here, said Luffy as he took the food bag from her. The duo exited the house and began walking towards the docks before Nami spoke again. My goal is to get 100 million belly, she stated, then I'm going to buy a certain village. Luffy smiled knowingly at her dream before she continued. I have a plan too, she said as she pulled a paper from her pocket. Look, she said, waving the parchment around. This is the Grand Line map I just stole. I'm going to steal some treasure from this buggy guy. Then I'm going to the Grand Line where I'll steal from even greater pirates who carry much more treasure. I'm also on the way to the Grand Line, said Luffy. I'm strong, so you could use my power and I could use your navigation skills. Luffy smiled and turned to Nami. You should join my pirate crew as the navigator. Nami stopped cold in her tracks. No way, she screamed at Luffy. Forget this conversation ever happened. I don't want to team up with pirates. The things I hate most in this world are pirates. I only like money and oranges. What if me and my first mate kick Buggy's ass? Asked Luffy. Then will you join our crew? It's mutually beneficial. Luffy didn't know what mutually beneficial meant, but he remembered that Nami had used those words to describe their partnership before Arlong. Nami hesitated. He has so much confidence. Could he actually be serious? She thought as Luffy waited for her reply. 2 conditions, she stated as Luffy began to smile. I keep all the money and I can leave at any time. Luffy's smile split his face. Of course, he stated as he started walking towards the docks. First we get my swordsman Zoro though. Zoro, swordsman? Thought Nami. She knew it was significant, but she couldn't quite remember. She shook her head to clear her thoughts and ran up to Luffy's side and began to walk with him towards the dock. Upon arrival, Nami and Luffy looked around. Rear boat? Asked Nami. There's nothing here. Luffy grinned and pointed into the distance at a barely visible boat. There, he said, he's just about to arrive. Then he sat down and opened the food bag. Nami sat next to him, watching him inhale the food at an unbelievable rate. So, she questioned, as she snuck some food away from Luffy. How did you get here before him? She asked curiously. I bite. Ran. Gulp. He looked up at Nami. We were racing, munch. He was in the boat and I gulp. Was running ahead of him on the water. Chomp. Oh great, thought Nami, he's crazy. A few minutes later the boat made it to the docks. Zoro was laying back relaxing as 3 of Buggy's bruised and battered minions rowed the boat. Hey Captain. Greeted Zoro as he caught the bottle of sake Luffy tossed him. The 3 henchmen caught sight of Nami sitting on the docks. Ah! They yelled in outrage. It's the treasure thief. Get her! Another yelled as they started to get up. Oi! Yelled Zoro menacingly. I'm trying to drink here, shut up. The 3 cowered before hurrying out of the boat and into the town, glaring at Nami but not daring to upset Zoro. Nami looked the relaxed swordsman over before she noticed the 3 swords at his hip. Zoro. Swordsman. 3 swords. Something clicked in her brain. Roronoa Zoro. She yelped in surprise, causing Luffy and Zoro to look at her. The crew member you were talking about was the pirate hunter Zoro. She questioned Luffy. I don't understand. Oi, Captain. Said Zoro as he stepped onto the docks. Who is she? Our navigator. Replied Luffy with a smile. Not until you fulfill your side of the deal, muttered Nami. What deal? Zoro questioned as he picked up his second bottle of sake. She'll become our navigator if we beat up Buggy the Clown. Luffy grinned before a twinkle entered his eye. Sigh. Yeah, I know. 6th sense, got it. She, laughed Luffy as he stood up. Let's go then. Gulp. Where are they at, Luffy? Asked Zoro before taking another swig. No clue. He said happily before he turned to Nami. Do you know? Sigh. Yeah, I'll show you the bar he and his men are stationed at. I really don't see how you guys hope to defeat them. She, simple. I take out all the weaklings and then fight Buggy. He turned towards Zoro. You can fight the vice captain. This will be good for your hockey training. Hockey? Wondered Nami, but she didn't say anything. The trio walked for 5 more minutes in silence before they reached the front of a big fancy bar. They've set up base on the roof, said Nami as she turned towards the 2 men. How do you plan on going about this? Hey you! Yelled Luffy at the roof. Huge, red, ugly, big nose. Immediately Buggy was there, his face twisted in rage. What did you call me? He yelled. Huge, red, ugly, big nose, yelled Luffy again. Fire the Buggy special cannonball, screamed Buggy in outrage. Luffy turned towards Zoro with a grin on his face. Let me show you what Busashoku Haki can do, he said before stuffing his hands in his pockets and turning to face the loaded cannon. Be gone. yelled Buggy as the cannon fired. Armament, hardening. Luffy's right leg was covered in black chrome as he faced the oncoming cannonball. Nami screamed. Luffy leaned onto his left leg, picking up his hockey-covered leg and swinging it forward as the cannonball came towards him. His leg and the cannonball connected and Luffy followed through with his swing, effortlessly sending the cannonball into the bar. Kaboom! Buggy's temporary base exploded, fire and wood raining down upon the two pirates and the stunned Nami. "What the hell are you?" she screamed. "I'm Monkey D. Luffy," said Luffy with a grin, the future Pirate King. He turned towards Zoro. "I've decreased their numbers," he said with a smile. "Shall we go knock out the rest?" he asked. "Ha ha ha ha," came a laugh from the destroyed bar before Zoro could open his mouth. There stood Buggy the Clown with two unconscious crew members he had used as his meat shield. Buggy tossed the unconscious men aside. "You're chatting around making a lot of noise," he said. "This is the biggest humiliation we've ever received under my pirate flag. I'm so mad, words fail me." Kabaji, his commander, appeared behind him. "I'll avenge the pain you've caused my crew," he yelled as he charged Luffy with his sword drawn while riding a unicycle. "I am Kabaji the Acrobat, commander of Buggy Sama's pirate fleets." Zoro blocked Kabaji's blade before it reached his captain. "If it's swords, I'm all for it." "Roranoa Zoro," Kabaji said as he recognized the infamous pirate hunter. "It will be an honor to slay you." He backed up for a second. "Moji!" he yelled. "Get your ass out here and kill this straw hat bastard." From under the rubble popped up a man that looked like he was half sheep, and next to him stood a huge lion that dwarfed the man-sheep. "Richie!" the man yelled as he leapt atop the lion. "Charge!" Luffy glanced towards Zoro. "Take this weirdo too," he said as Zoro scowled. "It's be more of a fair fight if there's two of them." "Fine," relented Zoro as he readied his three swords. "Not on my watch," yelled Kabaji as he stabbed towards Zoro. Zoro easily evaded blow and stuck the acrobat in the chest with the flat side of his blade, sending Kabaji flying into Chi. The lion tripped over Kabaji and all three tumbled on the ground. "Fine," spat Kanaji, "we'll both destroy you." "Yeah," sneered Moji as leapt atop Richie once again, "and then we'll kill your captain." Then, they charged. Richie attempted to swipe Zoro with his paw, but the swordsman ducked under the blow and quickly slashing the lion behind the knee before leaping towards the acrobatic swordsman. Kabaji barely blocked Zoro's slash. Pulling down his scarf he yelled, "Acrobat technique, fire trick," before spewing fire from his mouth into Zoro's face. As Zoro leapt back Kabaji yelled again, "Acrobat technique, murder mist trick," before stabbing his sword into the ground and flinging up a thin cloud of dust. "Some trick," said Zoro sarcastically. "It's just a cloud of dust." He raised his swords blocking another strike from the acrobat before a lion's paw flew in from the dust and hit his heart across the side, throwing Zoro into the wall of a nearby house. Zoro fell to the ground in pain, causing the pirate duo to laugh. "It's time, pirate hunter," yelled Kabaji as he charged forward. "Go to the next world." Zoro simply punched the charging acrobat causing him to fly backward, falling onto the ground. "What an annoying guy," said Zoro. "He's so full of openings too." Zoro readied himself for battle once again. "Let me teach you the difference in level between us." "Oh ho," said Kabaji as he balanced himself on his unicycle. "You got a strong determination there." Richie and Moji walked to his side. "Don't worry," said Moji. "You can use the fact that we outnumber you as an excuse when we defeat you." "Nonsense," said Zoro, "against weaklings like you, if I lose my future carries an obvious fate." "You asshole," sneered Kabaji. "Take a taste of the best trick I have." He pulled out a handful of spinning tops. "Acrobat technique. 100 tops typhoon," he yelled as he threw the tops at Zoro before riding towards the wall of the nearest building. "Acrobat technique. Wall riding," he shouted as he picked up speed and rode straight up the wall. "Richie!" yelled Moji as the tops neared Zoro. "Attack!" The lion roared and ran at the swordsman. Kanaji propelled himself into the air from the top of the building. "Acrobat technique. Midsummer firecrackers ignition," he yelled as he started to descend towards Zoro. Grunting, Zoro quickly sliced up the spinning tops that had reached him as he took a few steps back and prepared to unleash his technique at the two fighters. When the two fighters were almost upon him, he leapt back, causing Kabaji to miss his aerial assault. The two fighters were in front of Zoro. Oni, Zoro's swords darkened slightly as they became haki and fused. Jiri, Zoro slashed Kabaji across the chest with Wado Ichimonji and carved an X into Richie's chest. Coming to stop a few feet behind his foes, he sheathed his swords. The lion and the acrobat both collapsed, blood starting to stain the street around them. "You bastard!" shouted Moji as he checked on Richie's injuries. "I'll kill you." Zoro walked up and punched him, and his last enemy was defeated. She, laughed Luffy. "I saw what happened during your last attack, Zoro, good job." "Yeah," grinned Zoro, "and that made me pretty damn tired. Wake me up when you were ready to go." With that, Zoro sat down against a house and promptly fell asleep. "Yeah," agreed Luffy, "you sleep. I'm going to finish this off." Buggy glowered at Luffy. "Seeing your straw hat reminds me of a guy the first knew a long time ago," he said with disgust. "The impudent red-haired guy." "Yeah," agreed Luffy, "Shanks gave me his hat to protect and one day returned to him." "You know Shanks?" cried an outraged Buggy before producing a knife at the tip of his shoe, then prepared to die. Bara Bara windmill. Buggy's lower half detached from his body and flew towards Luffy, spinning round and round to create a makeshift buzzsaw. Luffy simply jumped over the legs as they sped past him. Moving here and there in the air, began Buggy as he held up 6 throwing knives, is most likely impossible, he yelled as he launched the weapons towards Luffy. "Why not?" grinned Luffy. "Gomu Gomu no grapple." His arm shot out and grabbed a pole before pulling him out of the path of the knives. "Oh ho," said Buggy, "you're a devil fruit user too, how interesting." "Yep," agreed Luffy as he stretched out his cheek, "I'm a rubber man." "Come then, Straw Hat," beckoned Buggy, "let us begin this battle of the devil fruits." "Soru," said Luffy before he disappeared. Buggy's eyes widened before he felt Luffy's fist smash into his face, blowing him back into the rubble of the destroyed building. Nami watched the fight in awe, her eyes widening and her jaw dropping a little more as Luffy demonstrated his absolute power. How is such a fight possible? She wondered in shock. "I feel as though I'm dreaming." Buggy staggered up as Luffy began to approach again. "Soru," said Luffy as he disappeared again. "Bara Bara emergency escape," he yelled as his head popped of his body, desperate to avoid the blow. Buggy didn't expect the hard blow to his stomach he received, causing him to fly back again. "Damn you, Straw Hat," he said as he stood up again, "I'll kill you." "Bara Bara festival," he cries, causing his body to split into 100 different parts. "Did a flashy death," he yelled as he began to attack. Luffy easily dodged the sloppy attacks as he let his arms stretch a little ways behind him. "Gomu Gomu no Gatling gun." Luffy's arms disappeared in a flurry of attacks that knocked Buggy's detached body parts out of the air and embedded them into the nearest concrete. After a few seconds of attacking, Luffy's work was done. Buggy was defeated, his unconscious head buried in the wall of a building. Grinning, he turned towards Nami. "Let's go take his treasure now," he proclaimed happily. Minutes later, Nami and Luffy woke up Zoro, both of them with big bags of treasure in their hands. "Zoro, we've got a navigator now," said Luffy with a huge smile on his face. Nami rolled her eyes. "I'm just cooperating with you while it serves my purpose, remember that." "I'll say okay for now, since it seems that if I go along with you guys I'll be able to earn a lot of money." He proceeded to hug her bag of treasure. "This much treasure should be worth at least 10 million belly." "You guys," yelled a new voice. The trio turned to find a mass of villagers led by the village chief, a white-haired old man wearing some makeshift leather armor. "We're the people of this village," he said before he gestured to the battle scene. "Do you know what happened here? If you know anything, please tell us." She, I'm Monkey D. Luffy," greeted Luffy. "Me and my crewmate here just got finished defeating Buggy and his goons." The chief raised his eyebrow at this remark before bowing slightly. "If what you say is true, then we are truly grateful." He raised his head and looked at the three again. "If there's anything we can do as repayment for what you've done, don't hesitate to tell us." Thought Luffy as he tapped his head. "Oh," he said as he held up his finger at a new thought. "You can wave my pirate flag for protection from any other pirates that try and raid this town." "Your pirates?" asked the mayor as a few citizens backed up in shock and worry. She, yes, this is my swordsman Rorinoa Zoro and my navigator Nami. He said as he gestured towards the two. And you, he said as he pointed at the mayor, are the first town to wave the flag of the future pirate king. I suppose, said the mayor hesitantly, as thanks for your efforts we will fly your flag. Yosh, yelled Luffy as he fist pumped. Now, he said as he turned towards his two crewmates, let's set off towards our next adventure and our next crewmate. He turned around and began to walk towards the docks, Zoro following wordlessly. Nami though ran quickly up to the mayor. Can we get some food too? She asked. These two don't seem to think ahead. Sure, the mayor replied as he lead her into a Nier all ready to go. Zoro lounging in the boat while Luffy excitedly loaded in the food and Nami excitedly loaded in the gold. Hey, yelled the mayor as the three pirates pushed off the dock, what's your flag? She, a jolly Roger with a straw hat on his head. Yelled Luffy at the townsfolk as they began to get farther away. The three sat in comfortable silence for a while before Zoro spoke up. Hey captain, he said, are you going to tell me how you ran on water? Wait, thought Nami frantically, he wasn't lying, smack. Oi, idiot, wake up. Nami smacked Luffy again in an attempt to rouse the sleeping captain. Luffy flipped onto his side and continued to sleep. Zoro smirked. Try waving some food in front his face, he said, but before Nami moved Luffy bolted up. Food? He asked as he frantically looked around. Nami stifled a laugh at Luffy's antics before speaking. Zoro told me all about this hockey ability you guys have. Do you think I could learn? Anyone can learn, said Luffy as he pulled some meat out of nowhere. Zoro began learning the day before we reached you. So, asked Nami, can you teach me? Which form do you want to learn first? I want to learn Kenbunshoku Haki, she said as she smiled brightly, it sounds very useful. Meditate, said Luffy simply, take in the world around you. All of it. Let nothing escape your senses. Kenbunshoku Haki lets your spirit resonate with the world around you. Nothing will escape your notice. With a little bit of practice you'll be able to sense the intent in attacks and avoid them almost before they begin. How long did it take you to master it? Asked Nami. A little over 9 months, Luffy smiled. My personality makes it hard for me to run away from a challenge, so dodging wasn't something I took seriously early on. I got into a lot of bad situations from taking all the hits though, it won't be like that in the future though. Nami sighed as she got into her meditation pose. Sometimes I can't tell if you're an airhead or not, she said. You act like a child most of the time, and then you go and say some wise words like that. She, definitely an airhead. Smirked Zoro as he too got ready to meditate. Unless anything changes, said Nami, we'll reach another island sometime tomorrow. Mid-morning, said Luffy nonchalantly. Nami blinked a few times in confusion. How would you know? She asked. You and Zoro have no sense of direction. Luffy grinned widely. Sixth sense, said Zoro as he closed his eyes. Don't doubt the captain's sixth sense. She. With that the two new crew members began to meditate, leaving Luffy alone to his thoughts. He leaned back in the boat again, pushing his treasured straw hat down to cover his eyes as he smiled widely. We're almost there, he thought with excitement. Just wait for me, Usopp. I can't wait to see you and the going merry again. Nami made no progress that day, much to her frustration. Don't worry, comforted Luffy. There's not much to concentrate on out here on the open sea. Wait until we reach land and meditate more there. Yeah, said Nami dismissively, I guess that makes sense. Syrup Village. Luffy stepped out of the boat onto the beach with a smile splitting his face. Usopp. He thought excitedly, we're here. Hey, said Zoro as he stepped out of the boat. What are those guys doing there? He gestured towards 3 small boys and a gangly teenager that were peeking over the top of a fallen tree at the top of a cliff. The 3 kids ran away as the teen yelled at them to come back, before hesitantly standing up and facing the 3 pirates. I am the great pirate fleet leader Usopp. He boasted as Luffy's smile grew. I am in charge of the security of this village. I am also known as Captain Usopp. He slowly approached the trio. It's best if you don't try to attack this village. My 80 million men are not going to forgive you. You're lying, right? Deadpanned Nami. Wah! Yelled Usopp in fright. I've been caught. See? Said Nami as she facepalmed. You even said it yourself. Arg! Did I just say that? Screamed Usopp. Bad planning indeed. She. Hey! barked Usopp at Luffy's laugher. Don't underestimate me. I am a man with high self-esteem. Everyone calls me Honorable Usopp. Would you be honorable enough to show us where we might grab some food? Asked Luffy as his stomach grumbled. And sake, added Zoro quickly, tavern. So, summarized Usopp as the group sat around a table of food, you're looking for companions in a big ship? Yup, exclaimed Luffy as he took a bite out a chunk of meat. Oh, sounds like a big adventure, said Usopp excitedly. There's only one place where you can find the stuff you want in this village. Although it's not a very big ship, but it's not that small either. Where? Questioned Nami. There's a mansion not far from this village that belongs to a wealthy family. The ship belongs to the mansion's owner. Usopp continued solemnly, although we say that she is the owner, she is a pitiful young girl, a weak and sick girl that always lies in her bed. I think it happened around a year ago, continued Usopp. That girl's parents died of sickness. She was left with a large inheritance, a mansion, and over 10 servants. Usopp sighed and leaned back in his seat. Even if you're really rich, it doesn't exempt you from sorrow. Nami's eyes lost some of her sparkle. She knew exactly what Usopp was talking about. Oh yeah, Usopp said as he turned towards Luffy, you said earlier that you're looking for companions, right? Usopp proudly pointed at himself. Let me be the captain, and I'll join you. Nope. The three said in unison. What kind of attitude is that? Screamed Usopp before he caught sight of the clock and got up. It's that time again, he said and promptly left the shop. Nami raised an eyebrow, but nobody said anything and they continued to eat in silence for a few minutes before they were interrupted by the three children from before. Usopp Pirate Group is here, they yelled as they entered the shop. What? The three kids came over to the table and raised their wooden swords over their head. Hey pirates, they shouted. What did you do to our captain, Usopp? Give us our captain back. Luffy swallowed the last of his food and sat back. Yum yum, he said happily, what delicious meat. Huh? Meat, he ate the captain, Zoro smirked. Your captain, he said, we just ate him. He gave the kids an insane smile. Gyhhhhh, the three screamed as they turned towards Nami. Weech. Why are you looking at me? Nami yelled in outrage before turning towards a laughing Zoro. Why did you tell them those weird things? Okay, said Luffy as he got up, time to go. Go where? Questioned Nami. The mansion on top of the hill, smiled Luffy, it's time to get us a boat. Mansion, the group arrived at the unguarded gate of the mansion. Luffy glanced around for a few seconds before he said, let's just go in, and hop the fence. Sigh, we can't stop him. Nami sighed, since we can't stop him, agreed Zoro, we'll have to follow him. As the trio got inside the plaza they spotted Usopp. He was sitting against a tree happily talking with a blonde-haired teen who was leaning out of a window. Oh, smiled Luffy as he spotted her, you're the Ajosama Usopp told us about. Huh? Usopp's eyes bugged as he was the trio, what are you doing here? Who's that? The girl, Kaya, asked. Usopp ran over to Luffy and slung his arm around him. These guys heard about my reputation, he boasted, they traveled far to meet me. They are new members of the Usopp Pirate Group. Nope, objected Luffy, that's not it. He stepped towards Kaya. We have a request for you. A request? She asked. For me? Yes, Luffy beamed. We need a ship, a big ship. Kaya opened her mouth to reply, but was interrupted by a shout. What are you doing here? Yelled Klahadore, her caretaker. Klahadore, listen, began, but the butler held up his hand for her to stop. You don't have to explain, he said, I will ask about it later. He turned towards the group. Please get out, he requested, or is there something you need to say? He looked at the group for a second before noticing Usopp. You, he growled, I've heard rumors about you. The villagers talk about you all the time. Usopp puffed his chest out. You can call me Captain Usopp, he said, everybody does. Klahadore adjusted his G. The guards saw you lurking out here. What do you want? He asked. Usopp stuttered. I heard there was a huge mole that lived inside the mansion. I wanted to see it for myself. Ha ha ha, chuckled the butler without enthusiasm. I see, you can certainly lie well. What? I heard about your father as well, he continued. You're the son of a filthy pirate. I'm not surprised you turned out this way, but you better stay away from my Ojo-sama. Usopp is a great and honorable pirate, yelled Luffy in the heat of the moment, causing everyone to look at him in surprise. You know my father? Asked Usopp in astonishment. It matters not, said Klahadore as he turned back towards Usopp. You and the Ojo-sama belong to totally different worlds. Is it money you're looking for? He taunted, name your price. That's enough Klahadore, shouted Kaya frantically. Apologize to Usopp-san at once. There's no need for me to apologize to this uncivilized person, scowled Klahadore. I'm just telling the truth. He turned towards Usopp again. I feel sorry for you. You hate your father, don't you? He asked. He's a dumb treasure hunter who deserted his family and village. Klahadore, I won't let you say another bad thing about my father, yelled Usopp as his eyes began to darken. Why are you so angry? You're not very smart, are you? Taunted Klahadore. You should have just told your usual lies and said your dad was a traveling merchant, or that you weren't related to him. Something inside Usopp snapped. Shut up! He yelled as he delivered a right hook to the butler's jaw, knocking him to the ground. See, said Klahadore as he picked himself up, you're so violent, like father, like son. Shut up, snapped Usopp again. I'm proud that my dad is a pirate, I'm proud that he's a brave warrior of the sea. You're right that I like to lie, but I'm proud of having a pirate's blood in me. I don't have to pretend that I'm not, I am a son of a pirate. Usopp spun around and marched away. I'm never coming back here again. I'm going after him, Luffy said. You guys wait in the village. Cliff. Usopp sat on the cliff top, leaning against a tree and staring off into the horizon, watching the waves. Luffy sat down next to him wordlessly. After a minute of silence, Usopp spoke. How do you know who my dad is? He asked. Luffy smiled widely. I've known him since I was a kid, he said to Usopp's astonishment. Really? You know my dad? Usopp shouted excitedly. Yup. Where is he now? Dunno, but I'm pretty sure he is on red-haired Shanks' ship. Usopp is one of my favorite pirates in that crew. Really? Asked Usopp in awe. So, he's on that red-haired Shanks' ship, huh? Usopp paused for a moment while something clicked. His eyes bugged out as he realized what Luffy had said. Red-haired Shanks. She. Is my dad really on that great ship? Pressed Usopp urgently. Luffy just smiled. Yeah, his shooting skill is the best. He never misses anything within his range. Luffy chuckled as he remembered Usopp. He was a really popular pirate, he told the beaming Usopp. Usopp stood up and looked across the horizon proudly. To tell you the truth, he said, even though he left me for the sea, I'm always proud of my dad. But, he frowned, that bastard Klahadore looked down on him. He looked down on my pride. Yup, agreed Luffy, I don't like him at all. Usopp sat down as Luffy spotted two people on the beach. That bastard butler is here, he said to Usopp as he pointed towards Klahadore and Django on the beach. Usopp clenched his jaw, but kept quiet as he and Luffy leaned in to listen to the two. Django, spoke Klahadore with a bite to his voice. I told you not to draw the attention of the villagers. Why did you sleep in the middle of the street? The weirdo, Django, said, how can I attract any attention? It's not like I look weird or something. There's a weird guy with him, whispered Usopp. I've never seen him before. So, said Klahadore as he adjusted his glasses, are you all prepared for it? Of course, said the man, we can start Operation Assassinate Ojo-sama, anytime. Assassinate is such an ugly word, said Klahadore. Ah, yeah, accident, we'll call it an accident, isn't that right, Captain Kuro? Klahadore narrowed his eyes. Captain Kuro? I gave up that name 3 years ago, don't call me that again. You're the captain now. I still remember that day, said Django, it simply shocked me. You said you were going to give up being a pirate, and made me the captain. Everyone thinks that Captain Kuro has been executed by the Marines, but actually you hid in this little village and told us to come here in 3 years' time. Before, he continued as he sat on a boulder, when I worked for you there were always a lot of benefits. That's the only reason I worked for you. I can get a good share this time, right? Yes, said Kuro, if you succeed, you'll get your share. Good, smiled Django, leave that girl to me. Killing her is not enough, said Kuro, you have to make it look like an accident. Yes, said Django, when you give the signal, we'll charge into the village and kill the Ojo-sama. But before we kill her I have to hypnotize her and make her write your name in the will. I will leave all my wealth to my butler Clahador, said Kuro, make her write that, this way I can openly claim her wealth. I've spent 3 years getting everyone to trust me. As soon as she writes the will nobody will suspect me. Just for this you spent 3 years being a butler? Django asked. If I were you, I would have just robbed them straight on. Clahador sighed, if I had done that, I would still be an outlaw, and the Marines would still be chasing me. This plan can get me tons of money, plus I won't have the Marines chasing me. I like using my head to find a peaceful way to settle things. Ha 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 ha, laughed Django loudly. Peaceful way to settle things? You mean murdering her entire family is a peaceful way? Hey, objected Clahador, Kaya's parents died naturally. That was outside my plans. Whatever, said Django dismissively, let's not argue over this. Anyways, you just need to send the signal. Our ship has been anchored close by for almost a week, they can't hold back any longer. Usopp and Luffy stayed in silence contemplating what they just heard. Usopp whispered to Luffy. His voice strained with fright. Kaya will be killed. The village will be under attack. Not good at all. Django, said Kuro, tomorrow morning, take the crew to attack the village. Destroy some houses, make it look like a pirate raid. Then, kill Kaya, the Ajo-sama. With that said, both men split ways. Tomorrow, breathed Usopp in disbelief. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad? Usopp leapt up and started towards the forest. The villagers will all be killed. Kaya will be killed too, people that I love. I love this village. He started to run as fast as he could towards the forest before Luffy appeared in front of him. Where are you going? He asked. The village, shouted Usopp frantically, I have to warn everyone. Luffy almost agreed with him, but a faint memory of a bloodied and bruised Usopp with a bullet wound stopped him. He remembered what happened the first time this happened. Usopp was the boy who cried wolf. They wouldn't believe him when he told the truth because of all his lies. No, objected Luffy firmly, that won't work. Please, begged Usopp, let me warn everybody. You lie about pirates coming every single day. Reasoned Luffy, why would they believe you this time? But, Usopp tried to argue, but he knew Luffy was right. Plus, added Luffy, we have the element of surprise now. Usopp raised his eyebrow at this. We're going to set traps for the pirates. Luffy explained. Now let's go tell my crew the plan. Mine too, added Usopp. Encampment. Luffy gathered Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and the 3 members of Usopp's pirate crew. Around their temporary beseg had been explained yet, so it was up to Luffy and Usopp. Usopp began with, UHHMM. Well, you see, me and, before he was interrupted by Luffy. Tomorrow we'll be fighting pirates. Luffy said bluntly, much to the dismay of Usopp and his crewmates, who yelped and clung together in fear. Don't say it like that, Usopp snapped, what if they won't help now? Luffy laughed lightly, she, my crew members aren't cowards, he said, and the 3 kids in your crew won't be fighting anyways. At this the 3 children relaxed noticeably. So, continued Usopp, here's the plan. We set up traps on the slope not far from here, it's the only way into the village. What about where we docked? Asked Nami. Usopp facepalmed, I forgot about that. He admitted, I just thought they'd come up this way since this is where they discussed their plans. So, said Zoro, we set up traps at both. No, disagreed Luffy, just on the slope we landed. Why just one? Asked Nami and Usopp in unison. Call it a captain's. 6th sense. Finished Zoro. It's yet to be proven wrong. Okay, agreed Usopp hesitantly. I hope you're right though. We can't station ourselves at both slopes or we'd be spread too thin, though we will be setting traps on both slopes. Luffy nodded his head in agreement before turning to the kids. We have something for you to do too, he said as the boys resumed clinging to each other. Usopp sighed, you're not going to be fighting, he explained, much to the boys' relief. I just need you guys to guard Kaya tomorrow. If you see any pirates, take her and run. The 3 boys nodded eagerly. You should go home now, we don't want anyone to be suspicious. I'll camp here tonight with Luffy and his crew. Mansion, Kaya's 2 butlers, Mary and Clahador, were tidying up the study when Clahador noticed a wrapped box sitting on the desk. He picked it up that package, he mused, what's this? "Oh, that?" Mary said as he noticed what Klahadore was holding. "That's a present from a Joe-sama. She said it's because tomorrow will be exactly 3 years since you first came to work at this mansion. She says it's an anniversary." Klahadore opened the gift and pulled out a new pair of glasses. "Anniversary," he said to himself. Mary smiled as Klahadore saw his present. "Because your glasses often slip," he explained. "A Joe-sama went to the next town personally and ordered this special pair of glasses. She is so nice and caring. She calls it an anniversary. Indeed, tomorrow really is a special day," said Kuro as his face darkened and he looked out the window. "Tonight's moon, it's crescent. On a night like this every cell in my body becomes excited." Kuro dropped his present to the floor and ground them underfoot. "What?" shouted Mary in surprise and anger. "Klahadore-san, why did you break the present? A Joe-sama went through so much trouble to get it for you?" Kuro smirked as he turned towards Mary. "I will ask her for my own presents, but it won't be a small present like this. I want everything in this house." "Wah! What? There's no need to continue this act," said Kuro as he stalked towards Mary. "In just a couple of hours this village will be overtaken by pirates." He pulled his weapon, the cat claws, out of his bag, their blades gleaming. "A Joe-sama!" shouted Mary as he backed up frantically. "Run!" Kuro quickly slashed Mary vertically and left him bleeding out on the ground before the former pirate retired for the night. "Slope, okay," said Usopp enthusiastically. "We're done. We stashed your treasure away from the slope and sprayed a massive amount of oil here. Now those bastards won't be able to get up this slope. This is the most effective way to battle them. No matter what, we must guard this slope with our lives. Just don't fall down there yourself, or else you're screwed," warned Nami as her captain testily put his foot on the oil part of the slope. "Yep," he agreed. "Don't worry," boasted Usopp. "I have a lot of confidence in myself." Nami looked out across the horizon as the sun began to rise. "The sun is up," she said. "The pirates are going to come soon." The small group stood at the top of the slope, watching as a red and black pirate ship with a black cat as the figurehead came into view and settled on the beach. She, my sixth sense was right again." Luffy grinned widely while Zoro just rolled his eyes. "We've reached shore," yelled a pirate from the ship. "Everyone, let's go," yelled another. "Our plan is to destroy the village." "Goo!" yelled the pirates as they charged out of ship. "Don't let anyone live." Several pirates were promptly knocked back by Usopp's slingshot. "There are people up on the slope," yelled a foot soldier. "I'm Captain Usopp," said Usopp as he brandished his slingshot and a handful lead pellets. "I've been waiting here for you guys. I've made all the preparations. If you don't want to die, then retreat at once." The pirates didn't even hesitate. "Everybody charge!" they cried as they leapt forward. "Destroy the village." They didn't get too far. As soon as they reached the oil slick they started slipping. "Now," said Usopp as he rose his slingshot, "my special attack. Namari Boshi." Usopp fired a lead pellet into the jaw of the nearest pirate, knocking him down the slope unconscious. "Good job," praised Nami. "Keep up the good work. I'm going to rest a while." "The battle isn't over yet," yelled Usopp. Django looked over the mess in disgust. "You idiots," he yelled. "Hurry up and get past them to the village. Did you forget Captain Kuro's plan? We can't mess it up, or else he'll kill us all. Do you hear me, you idiots?" The pirates froze in fear for a moment before scrambling to try and get up the slope. "Zoro," said Luffy calmly, "we're going down." "Yes, sir," said Zoro as he put Wado Ichimonji in his mouth. Both men slid down the oiled slope and immediately knocked the front lines down to the beach again. The pirates panicked. "What's going on?" they cried. "Captain Django, we didn't know they had these kind of people in the village." Django narrowed his eyes. "I didn't know you guys were this strong," said Usopp in awe. "Of course," Luffy said with a smile. "Hey," barked Django. "You idiots, don't tell me you guys are finished just from one blow from those fools? Listen, we don't have time to waste here. Since the opponent is strong, we must be stronger." He pulled out his pendulum blade. "Come. Look at my pendulum. After I say, 1, 2, Django, you guys will become stronger. Your wounds will heal, and you will become much stronger than before." Django lowered his hat over his eyes. 1, 2, Django. Immediately the exhausted crew members burst forth with a battle cry, their energy restored and their wounds healed. No way, gasped Nami, they were still shaky just a moment ago. One of the pirates demonstrated his new strength by punching the side of the cliff, causing it to break apart and fall. He crushed the wall. How did they gain so much strength? Yelled Zoro in surprise. He hypnotized them to their soul. Explained Luffy, they have a temporary haki armor. I see, said Zoro with a grin, but they're not the only ones. He turned towards Usopp. Try and pick off as many as you can, he ordered. Usopp nodded in reply. Luffy took off running towards the mass of henchmen. They noticed him and charged. Luffy readied his fists, imbuing them with a bit of haki. Gomu Gomu no Gatling. Luffy into a rapid barrage of strong punches that sent the hypnotized pirates flying back down the slope. His arms, gasped Usopp. Nami put her hand on his shoulder. Later, she simply said. Django surveyed the unconscious pirates surrounding him. We still have those two, he contemplated aloud before he grinned. Mansion, they boys were stationed in the tree just outside of Kaya's house. Just a while ago they had watched Klahadore leave the house, walking to the village, but now they were relaxing. Their relaxation was cut short as a Senchin. Mary, the boys quickly rushed into the house, going towards the voices. What happened? Asked Kaya from the dining room. Mary, wake up, you can't die. The boys dashed into the room to see Kaya sitting over a critically wounded Mary, blood splattered throughout the room. Kaya-sama, they shouted, surprising the blonde teen. Before anybody could say anything else, Mary began to cough violently as he rolled over and vomited blood. Mary, shouted Kaya as she turned back to her wounded butler. Ajo-sama. Good, you're safe, the wounded butler said. I'm safe? Questioned Kaya with tears in her eyes. What are you saying? Klahadore, coughed Mary, he tried to kill me. Wah! This can't be real. Kaya gasped. He's a pirate, shouted Mary. Yes, agreed the boys readily, he's a pirate that's planning to kill you. Why? Asked Kaya in shock. How? He's just after your money, Kaya-sama, the boys revealed. His crew is supposed to raid the village today and kill you, but Usopp and his new friends are making a stand. Kaya gasped. We have to go help them, she cried. The boys shook their head. We promised Usopp that we'd keep you safe, they said. We can't let you go towards the pirates. Kaya sniffed and nodded. Very well, she said, we'll stay here. Slope, come down, Nyaben brothers, Django yelled dramatically. What's going to come out now? Wondered Zoro before he saw two figures leap high into the air from the ship and land right next to the hypnotist. Hello, Nyaben brothers. Django greeted the two new men. One was fat and was dressed to resemble a black and white cat, while the other was skinny and had cat ears on his head as well as green cat-like eyes. Captain, greeted the skinny pirate, you called for us? Butchie, Sham. Django said as he motioned up the slope. We couldn't pass through this slope because those guys are blocking our way. Go and destroy them. The two men began to shake. What? They protested. How can we? We can't beat them. Those guys look really strong. Sham, yelled Django at the skinny one, go now. Okay, shouted Sham as he scampered up the slope, I'm going. Zoro, said Luffy as he walked past Zoro up the slope, no mercy. The swordsman sighed and looked at the enemy. Prepared to die, yelled Sham as he sloppily charged, my claws are really sharp. What can you do with those claws? Scowled Zoro as he drew a single sword, but he remembered his captain's words and drew the other two. Zoro concentrated as Sham charged. He didn't need to use haki against the man, but he needed to practice it. Sham entered Zoro's range and his three swords darkened slightly. Onigiri. Zoro slashed through the man, but whirled around in surprise. When he slashed, his swords hadn't cut anything substantial. Zoro turned just in time to parry a strike from behind the man tried. Zoro deflected him easily and faced him again, a scowl on his face. While Zoro's back was turned, Butchie ran forward, determined to defeat the swordsman. Cat technique, he yelled as he leapt into the air, Butchie's dropkick. Zoro sidestepped the attack, but the kick still cracked the ground around him, forcing him to retreat more. Damn, said Sham as he joined his brother, he got away, he's stronger than I expected. Butchie raised his claws. This time I won't let him escape, he said. Of course. Let's do it, Butchie. Give it to him, Sham. Both men charged as Zoro prepared his attack, placing his two katanas parallel to each other behind Wado Ichimonji, and waited for the two pirates to enter his range, his haki flowing steadily into his blades. "Shia!" yelled the men as they approached. "Stop dreaming. Even with 3 swords, you're still no match for us. You don't know the difference between using 3 swords and using 3 swords style," sighed Zoro. Then the men entered his range. Toragari. Zoro's swords swung with deadly grace forwards as they cut into the 2 men, causing them to fly off the ground with blood pouring from them. Django's eyes opened wide in fear, not because of Zoro's strength, but because of the presence of a new man of the battlefield. I can explain," he stuttered in fright. Zoro turned around to look at the disturbance. There at the top of the slope stood Kuro, the former butler, glaring menacingly at the carnage. "It has been pretty long since dawn," he said with a deceptively calm voice. "I was wondering why the plan wasn't carried out. What the hell happened?" "Captain," pleaded Django, "these men are strong. I will accept no excuses," roared Kuro in outrage, "but calm down quickly, Django. Yes, I will take care of these kids. You take care of Ajo-sama. Make her write her will and then kill her." "Got it." Zoro held out his swords. "I won't let you get through me," he said. "No, Zoro," said Luffy as he appeared behind him. "Let Nami and Usopp take care of him. They need fighting experience." Nami and Usopp paled a bit at this but nodded. Luffy pointed at their ship. "Raid it," he said. "Nami probably wants their money." "Yes, I do," quipped Nami. Zoro sheathed his weapons and began to walk towards the ship. Django pulled out 2 of his round blades and began to twirl them. As he prepared to attack the swordsman, Usopp acted. Namari Boshi. Django was knocked back by Usopp's shot, his weapons falling out of his hands. "You bastard," he hissed as he picked himself up. The swordsman had already passed him. Turning towards Zoro, he picked up his weapons and started towards him, but was promptly hit in the back of the head by Nami's bow staff, causing him to fall flat on his face. "You bitch!" he growled as he backed up to face her. "Usopp!" she yelled as she faced Django. "You better cover me," Usopp replied by shooting at the hypnotist, who barely dodged. Nami leapt forward at this chance and swung her staff into the hypnotist's side. Django grunted in pain briefly before pulling out his chakram and swinging at Nami, who barely dodged. She brought up her staff in an attempt to hit the man, but Django easily parried her blow and forced her off balance. Taking this chance, Django raised his weapon, but Usopp reacted first. Namari Boshi. Django was hit in the head once again. His vision blurred as he regained his balance. He regained his senses just in time to recognize Nami's staff as it swung down at him. Nami began her barrage of hits, knocking the hypnotist around. The blows weren't enough to finish him off though. Django braced himself against the hits before throwing himself forward, forcing Nami to the ground. Usopp steadied his slingshot as Django raised his weapon to deal a fatal blow. Special technique. Kyaku Boshi. Usopp's gunpowder star exploded in Django's face. As the smoke cleared, Django's sunglasses fell off, a bit of blood trailing from his mouth. "Captain. Kuro," he muttered as he collapsed. Kuro's eyes narrowed, but he didn't reply. Instead, he pulled 2 gloves from his bag. Each finger had a full katana attached. He glared at the pirates who had ruined his plan. Luffy smiled widely as he placed himself in front of Kuro. "Before we fight," Kuro said, "I want to ask you one question. You're a stranger here. Why are you getting so involved with this village?" "I have a friend in this village that I don't want to see dead," Luffy said simply. "What a simple reason," said Kuro. "Are you really okay with it? After all, it'll be your reason for dying." "That's okay," Luffy grinned. "I'm not going to die anyway." Kuro rushed his foe and Luffy just stood there. Luffy yawned as Kuro approached, only angering the butler more. Casually sidestepping Kuro's swing, Luffy brought up his knee into the man's chest, throwing him back a couple of feet. The winded Kuro stood shakily. That blow had done a lot of damage. "So," he said, "you're not all talk, I see. I think I might have to go all out against you." Luffy yawned again at his weak opponent, causing Kuro to grit his teeth in anger. "You've insulted me," he growled as he adjusted his glasses. "I'll have to show you who's been at the brink of death and survived." Kuro lowered his arms and began to say back and forth sideways in a fluid manner. Shikushi, Kuro disappeared and an eerie silence drifted through the battlefield. Suddenly, 10 claw marks were carved into the ground 15 feet away, then another 25 feet away, then 10. The random attacks continued all around Luffy, who just stood there silently. Claws in the ground appeared 30 feet to Luffy's left before Luffy suddenly punched straight in front of him. Kuro was knocked out of invisibility by Luffy, his ribs groaning at the punch. "Too slow," said Luffy to the wounded man. Kuro furrowed his brows at Luffy. He was unharmed. "I guess it's a bit much to use Shikushi against just one person," he thought as he stood up once more. "I should use Nuki Ashi against him, it would be much more effective." Kuro adjusted glasses once more before facing Luffy. "Nuki Ashi," he said as he disappeared for a moment before reappearing behind Luffy, his claws in motion. "Soru," Luffy appeared behind Kuro immediately. "Your attack has too many useless movements," he said before punching Kuro in the face as he turned around. Kuro's glasses shattered as he fell back, his nose broken. "My plan," he wheezed loudly. "My plan cannot fail." Angrily he rounded on Luffy, a crazed look in his eyes. "Nuki Ashi, Soru," both men disappeared as Luffy met Kuro's charge with a hard fist to his body. Ribs breaking as Kuro flew back 15 feet before skidding across the ground unconscious. Zoro whistled in appreciation from the bow of the pirate ship. "Good job, Captain," he said as he lifted up a sack of treasure. "Where do I put this?" he asked. Nami's eyes began to shine. "Put it in our ship," she said as she excitedly ran to check how much Zoro had gotten. Usopp stared in astonishment during the whole fight, surveying the scene. "What are you?" he asked. "How are you so strong?" Luffy grinned widely. "I'm the one who's going to become the Pirate King." "A caravel," Nami yelled in glee as Kaya and Mary presented the ship to the crew. "It's slightly old style," explained Mary, "but I designed it myself. It's a caravel and it uses a staysail. The controls are in the back. I call it the Going Merry." He looked at Luffy. "So it was you who defeated the Black Cat pirates with Usopp-kun," he said with amusement. "I thought you'd be a little bigger." Luffy ignored the comment as he walked up to the ship. "I love it," he simply said to the happy butler. "Well," said Mary, "I will explain the steering system." Luffy interrupted him. "Tell Nami," he said as he gestured to her. "I won't understand." As the butler went to speak to Nami, Luffy turned towards Kaya. "Thanks for causing all this trouble," he said excitedly. "That's for going through all this trouble," Zoro corrected his captain. "Wah!" A yell of terror attracted the group's attention. "Stop me, please," yelled Usopp as he rolled down the slope, a huge backpack rolling with him. "Usopp-san," gasped Kaya. "What's he doing?" asked Nami. "No idea," replied Zoro, "but I think we should stop him. If he keeps on going like that, he'll hit the ship." "Watch out for his face," advised Luffy as he and Zoro raised their feet to stop him. Thank you," stuttered Usopp as he looked at the pair's feet on either side of his head. "No problem." Kaya approached the three as Luffy and Zoro helped Usopp get his balance. "So, you're going to the sea, Usopp-san?" Kaya asked. "Yeah," Usopp confirmed. "I had to go before I change my mind. Please don't stop me." "I won't," Kaya said. "I figured that you would do this." She took a deep, shaky breath. "That's why I've decided to join you." "What?" Everybody but Mary looked at her in surprise. Luffy the most surprised of all. "This isn't what happened last time," he thought frantically before calming himself down. "It's not a bad thing though, Kaya is a good person. And it'd make Usopp happy," Luffy quietly thought to himself. Usopp was trying, with no avail, to convince Kaya that it was too dangerous when Luffy interrupted. "Usopp," he said firmly, "it's her decision. You can't decide for her." Usopp stopped talking, but still grumbled under his breath, before he agreed and the two new crew members got into the boat. Before they set sail, Luffy shouted to Mary, "This island is under our protection now." He yelled to the butler, "You can fly our flag for protection. It's a Jolly Roger with a straw hat on it." "See, cheers," cried the crew as they raised their glasses, to a new ship and two new crew members. The crew began to party as Luffy began drawing his Jolly Rogers. "All right," he yelled as he revealed a badly drawn skull and crossbones wearing a straw hat, "our pirate flag is done. He beamed at his fellow crewmates. What'd you think? You're beyond terrible, deadpanned Usopp. Leave the drawing to me. After attempting to change the symbol on the flag, Usopp succeeded in making a perfect Jolly Roger. Wow, exclaimed Kaya. It's perfect, added Nami. It doesn't even remotely look like the other one, Zoro pointed out while Luffy merely laughed. She, that's great, draw one on our sail too. As Usopp began to brag about his supreme art skills, Luffy turned to Nami. Can you teach Kaya and Usopp about hockey? He asked the navigator. Nami nodded and Luffy turned to Zoro. Do you have any extra workout equipment? He asked him. Yes, some. Zoro answered. Good, smiled Luffy, you're going to be training with a few more people soon. Deck, Luffy sat on his favorite seat on the figurehead when Usopp approached him. I have some questions about Busashoku hockey, he said. Can it be used with projectiles? Luffy smiled and motioned Usopp over to the cannon. Let me show you, he said as he put his hand on the cannon. Aim the cannon at that outcrop of rocks over there and I'll infuse it with hockey. Usopp nodded and adjusted the cannon. Judging the distance between here and the target, this should about do it. Okay, Luffy said as the cannon turned a deeper shade of black. Fire. Boom. The hockey-charged cannonball annihilated the outcrop of rocks. Holy crap, shouted Usopp in disbelief. Luffy smiled. I've decided, he said, you can be our sniper. Usopp grinned. Alright, he agreed. I guess I can settle for that for the time being, but if you ever chicken out from your duties, I'll take charge as the ship's captain. Alright, agreed Luffy, fine. The duo entered the interior of the ship before Luffy spoke again. So you've decided on using Busashoku hockey, right? Yeah, agreed Usopp. I have to hit harder in order to protect Kaya. Great, Luffy beamed. That being settled, Zoro will teach you about Busashoku hockey and you'll be doing weight training with him daily too. Usopp blanched at this, but before he could reply a voice from outside yelled, Come out you damn pirates. I'm gonna slaughter the lot of you, followed by the sound of wood splintering. Luffy flew out of the door in anger. Nobody was going to damage Mary again. Hey, he yelled as he came outside. Just who the hell do you think you are? Who the hell do you think you are? The man yelled as he took a wild swing with his sword at Luffy and the boat. Luffy, not wanting to see the boat injured again, caught his sword hand and disarmed him before throwing him into the mast. They almost had him, the man muttered as he laid on the ground breathing heavily. Zoro stepped out onto the deck and looked the man over. Huh? He said with a look of surprise. Hey, aren't you Johnny? The man leapt up. Zoro, is that really you, bro? Where's Yosaku? Asked Zoro. Isn't he usually with you? Johnny widened his eyes before jumping into his little ship that was alongside the Going Merry. I need to get him, he yelled. He's sick. A little while later the whole crew was on the deck as Johnny dragged his partner aboard. Kaya, immediately diagnosing the problem, quickly went inside. He was just fine a couple days ago, explained Johnny, but all of a sudden he turned pale and kept passing out. I don't know what he's come down with. His teeth have begun to fall out, and his old wounds have reopened. I just don't know what to do anymore. He lamented. I was trying to at least let him get some rest on top of that rock. But all of a sudden this ship fired a cannonball at us. Luffy and Usopp's jaws dropped at this statement before they muttered in sync. We're truly sorry. It's fine. What's done is done, Johnny replied as he looked at his sick friend again. Yosaku and Johnny. We were infamous enough to have pirates shaking in their boots at the mere mention of our names. We've lived and worked together as bounty hunters for years. Is this how it's all going to end? God! Yelled Nami. How thick could you get? What did you just say? Growled Zoro. Lady, Johnny warned as he unsheathed his sword. I won't let you go free if you dare to make a mockery of my partner's suffering. Nami facepalmed. Luffy. Usopp. There are some limes in the kitchen. Go squeeze the juice out and bring it here ASAP. No need, announced Kaya as she emerged with several glasses of fresh squeezed lime juice. I started to do that as soon as I saw him. She gave the mugs to Usopp and Luffy. Go make him drink this, she said before she turned to Johnny. He's afflicted with scurvy, she explained. If we're not delayed, he should recover just fine in a few days. Hey, are you telling me the truth, sis? Yelled Johnny excitedly. Wow, yelled Luffy, you're like a doctor. Yeah, Usopp explained. It's a dream of hers to be a doctor. At this, Yosaku jumped up and started dancing in circles with Johnny. "Alright, I'm charged up on nutrients and ready for action." "Haha, my partner is fine now. Like hell he could recover that fast," yelled Nami in rage. "Nami's right," said Kaya, "please, lie down for a while longer." "I don't know how to thank you," Yosaku said. Ignoring Kaya's request, "I thought I buy." Blood spurted out of his mouth as he fell back again. "Yosaku, just shut the hell up and get some rest already," Zoro yelled. As Johnny laid Yosaku down, the crew congregated in the dining hall. "We definitely need someone to think about our diet, to see to it that we stay healthy," Usopp said. "Yeah," agreed Kaya, "what we need is a chef of the sea." "If you think about it, Nami said, that's one of the most important talents to have when you're out on the seas." "Alright," grinned Luffy, "I've decided. It's time to get a sea cook, to Barty's, the restaurant on the sea." Nightfall. That night Luffy had nightmares. He saw Mihawk not spare Zoro on their first encounter. He saw Jin mercilessly crush Sanji's skull and instead of sparing him. He saw fate changing around him and it scared him. He sat up in his bed, cold sweat on his body. After he calmed himself down, he decided to go outside. Maybe the waves would calm him. As Luffy slipped outside, he noticed he wasn't the only one there. "Hey Nami," he said, causing the navigator to jump in fright before turning towards him. "You scared me," she said. "Why are you awake?" "Nightmares," Luffy replied, which caused Nami to raise her eyebrow. "What could you have nightmares about?" she asked. "Nakama dying." They sat in comfortable silence for a minute, looking out across the dark horizon, letting the waves calm them. "Why are you still up?" Luffy finally asked. "It's complicated." "Uncomplicated then," Name huffed in exasperation. "It's not that easy." "Sure it is," Luffy said. He knew what Nami was thinking about. She was thinking about Arlong. In about a week she would leave in the original timeline. "How can you view everything as easy?" Nami asked. "Everything is not easy though," Luffy countered. "It's just that decisions like what you have should be easy." "You don't know what my problem is though," Nami hissed. "If you did, the decision wouldn't seem so easy." Luffy sighed and looked at her. "Either you stay wrapped in fear and never change anything, or you trust in your nakama and yourself and you change anything." With that sagely advice, Luffy spun on his heels and walked back towards the cabin. "I know all about your struggle, Nami. I've been there myself. I'm only here today because of my nakama. I trust in them." He reached the cabin door and looked at her again. "I know about your tattoo too," he said, much to Nami's shock and horror, "and I would still trust you with my life." Nami was left out on the deck amid all of the tumultuous thoughts, and Luffy went back inside. He knew. "Midday, we're here at the restaurant," Johnny yelled in excitement as they neared their destination. "Wow!" Kaya squealed as she caught sight of the restaurant. "That's so funky," Usopp yelled. "What do you think, everyone?" Johnny asked as he pointed to the restaurant of the seas, Barty. It kind of looked like a fish. The Bharati was a fairly large ship with 4 levels. It was oval-shaped, with the normal masts, but had a fish as a front piece. A small array of cannons were lined on the sides, which could be used for battle. "This," Yosaku introduced loudly, "is the floating restaurant of the sea, Bharati. We're here at the restaurant," Johnny yelled in excitement as they neared their destination. "Wow!" Kaya squealed as she caught sight of the restaurant. "That's so funky," Usopp yelled. "What do you think, everyone?" Johnny asked as he pointed to the restaurant of the seas, Barty. It kind of looked like a fish. The Bharati was a fairly large ship with 4 levels. It was oval-shaped, with the normal masts, but had a fish as a front piece. A small array of cannons were lined on the sides, which could be used for battle. "This," Yosaku introduced loudly, "is the floating restaurant of the sea, Bharati." "Whoa," Nami commented loudly. "I told you, didn't I?" Johnny said before the group heard a ship pulling up alongside them. "Marines?" Yosaku yelped. "When did they get here?" "They're not going to attack us, right?" Usopp asked as he hid behind Luffy. A man made his way onto the deck. He was an average-sized marine that wore a white pinstripe suit. His hair was well combed and he had a scar under his right eye and bolts attached to his knuckles. He mused. "I have never seen that pirate flag before." He made his way over to the side of the ship and spoke loudly to the pirates. "I'm a lieutenant of the Marine headquarters known as Iron Fist Full Body. Who is your captain? Name yourself." Luffy straightened up. I'm Luffy. I just finished making my pirate flag the day before yesterday. And I'm Usopp, exclaimed Usopp loudly as Kaya giggled quietly behind him. Full Body cast a lazy eye over the group before looking at Johnny and Yosaku. Wait a minute, he scowled. I think I've seen you two before. You frequent the government offices on some business. If I remember correctly, you're small-time bounty hunters. Yes, Yosaku and Johnny, I think your names were. So, you've finally been caught by pirates, have you? The duo struck a pose. Hey Yosaku, Johnny said, I think this bro's sticking it to us. Well, Yosaku puffed on his cigarette. We can't just let some guy walk around calling us small time. This ain't gonna net us a single belly, but I think we ought to teach this kid how to keep his mouth shut. They whipped their swords out as they leapt onto the marine ship. You cocky little yuppie, they yelled in unison. Full Body sighed as he flexed his iron fist. Moments later, the bounty hunters were back on the Going Merry, bloody and bruised. It almost had him. They moaned in unison. You sure you guys aren't just super weak? Luffy asked. And no, Yosaku muttered, it's just that guy's not too shabby himself. It was a close one, Johnny agreed. Guys, Usopp yelled in horror, we're in deep shit. The bastard's aiming his cannon at us. What? Several people yelled in horror. Sink him. Full Body commanded from beside the cannon. He fired. Usopp screamed. Leave it to me, Luffy said as he stepped onto the railing into the path of the cannonball. As the cannonball drew closer, Luffy cracked his knuckles before leisurely backhanding the cannonball away. The hell? Usopp, Yosaku, and Johnny exclaimed in shock. What? Full Body gasped. What are you doing, you dumbass? Zoro shouted as the cannonball flew into the roof of the restaurant. Nami facepalmed as Luffy fell back in shock. Not again, he groaned. It's a cook's duty to keep his customers well fed. The head chef, Zeph said, are you planning on ruining my restaurant, you numbskulls? Head chef's room. Zeph was an elderly-looking man who had short blonde hair, which was somewhat unkempt, a mustache that he tied with light blue ribbons on each end. He kept most of his hair underneath his extra-long chef's hat. His mustache was considerably long, and he had a beard. He wore his chef's uniform, with a blue ascot, and white apron. Also, seemed to have lost his right leg. In place of it he had a peg leg. Sir, another chef entered the room dragging Luffy alongside him. We brought the one responsible for this. He gestured at Luffy, this is the perp. I'm so sorry, mister. Luffy said. I'm injured all over my body thanks to you, Zeph growled. If you got no money, then you'll have to work it off. Sure thing. Luffy agreed. I'll pay you back in full by this time in 3 days. The head chef raised his eyebrow before he smirked. If you only work odd jobs around my restaurant for 1 year, then I will forgive you. How do you plan to pay back the debt in only half a week? Luffy smiled widely. You'll just have to wait and see, he answered cryptically. You'll still have to work until the time comes though, Zeph said with finality as he stood up. Let me show you around the restaurant. He took one step before the floor beneath him cracked and he fell through with Luffy falling behind him. Ag! They yelled as they fell. What is it this time? Someone else shouted from a couple of feet away. Zeph groaned as he slowly stood up. Phew, Luffy panted, that scared the crap out of me. The head chef looked at the hole which they fell though. Shit. The ceiling of my beautiful restaurant is. His head snapped towards Luffy. This is all your fault, you damn brat, he yelled. You destroyed that part yourself. Luffy defended himself. Sir, someone called, catching both of their attention. Please stop Sanji for us. Luffy and Zeph turned to watch as 5 chefs struggled to keep Sanji in check. Sanji, Zeph barked, are you running wild in my restaurant again? Shut up, you shitty geezer. Sanji growled as he peeled the chefs off of himself. It's exactly as it seems, sir, the last chef holding Sanji yelled. This time Sanji beat up some idiot marine lieutenant. Sanji roughly tossed off the remaining chef before facing Zeph, just in time to get smacked across the jaw by Zeph's wooden leg. Luffy smiled before he caught sight of a marine lieutenant on the ground. He realized, that's the guy who fired the cannonball earlier, but why is he all bloodied up? He looked at Sanji again before the situation became clear and he chuckled a little. And you? Zeph turned around and kicked the downed marine lieutenant towards the door. Got the hell out already. Luffy watched in amusement as Zeph, Sanji, and another chef named Patty argued. A marine soldier burst through the door. "Lieutenant Full Body," he yelled frantically. "It's an emergency," the marine panted. "Forgive me, sir, but he's escaped from the ship's prison. The underling of Pirate Krieg has escaped. It took 7 of us just to capture him in the first place, but now he's gone." The restaurant patrons burst into fearful chatter as Full Body's eyes widened. "That's impossible," he said. "He shouldn't even have the strength to move. He was on the verge of death when we captured him 3 days ago, not to mention he hasn't had a single scrap of food since then." The marine soldier started stammering as he apologized. "Please forgive me, place." Bang! The soldier stopped talking as he looked down at his body to see blood flowing out of his chest. His eyes widened as he realized he had been shot before he slowly collapsed. The entire restaurant looked on as the shooter slowly made his way over to a table and sat down. "Anything will do," he spoke loudly. "Just bring me some food. This place is a restaurant, right?" Luffy, remembering what happened last time, quietly made his way towards his ship. He had to get something. Outside, Jin, the pirate armada combat commander for the Krieg pirates, crawled painfully across the outside deck of the restaurant, his stomach begging for food. He looked up as someone said something next to his head. Sanji sat there with a plate of food in his hands that he set down in front of the pirate. "Eat," Sanji commanded. "And drink," said Luffy, appearing from nowhere with a glass of lemonade in his hands. "I heard you hadn't had food in a while, so you're probably going to get scurvy soon if you don't drink up." Sanji smiled appreciatively at Luffy as Jin quickly ate and drank. "I've never had anything so delicious in my life." Jin cried, "Hap, I thought I was going to die. I thought it was all over for me." "It's damn good, right?" Sanji bragged before he looked towards Luffy. "So who are you?" Luffy smiled widely. "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, a pirate." "Oh," Sanji said, "you're a pirate?" Luffy nodded. "So why'd you try to fire a cannonball at this restaurant?" "Oh, that?" Luffy smiled sheepishly. "That was just an accident. It was just a cannonball that went astray from my self-defense." "What's that supposed to mean?" Sanji raised an eyebrow before shaking his head. "In any case, you'd better not try anything funny at this restaurant. The owner of this place used to be the captain of a pretty infamous pirate crew." "Yeah," Luffy agreed. "That old man seemed like he was capable of being that strong." Sanji sighed. "This restaurant is like a treasure to that damn geezer, and the rest of the cooks who came to work here out of their admiration for that geezer are all hot-blooded and crude enough to be pirates. It's quite appropriate considering all the pirates that frequent around these parts." Luffy nodded. "Not a quiet moment in this place, eh?" "Yeah," Sanji admitted, "but it's daily routine for us. There have even been some guests lately who come to see the pirates and the cooks duke it out." Sanji calmly took a puff from his cigarette. "Thanks to that, all the waiters got scared and ran away." "Oh," Luffy exclaimed, "that must be the reason he asked me to work here for a year." He shrugged. Whatever. Hey, join my crew." Sanji chuckled. "I'll have to refuse on that offer. I got my own reason to keep working here." "Nope," Luffy said, "I refuse." Sanji's sweat dropped. "What?" "I refuse your refusal," Luffy clarified. "You're a good cook, so we'll be pirates together." Hey, Sanji said. "At least hear me out." "Fine then," Luffy agreed. "What's your reason?" Sanji hesitated before he leaned back. "No need to tell you." Luffy's sweat dropped. "You just told me to hear me out," he yelled. "All I meant was you should hear other people's opinions when talking," Sanji retorted loudly. "Don't make me chop you up, you damn straw hat wearing shithead." "What did you say?" Luffy growled. "Don't you dare insult my straw hat or I'll send you flying." Sorry to cut into the conversation, but Jin began before the duo turned towards him. "What is it?" they yelled angrily. "My name is Jin. I'm a member of the Krieg pirates." Jin began. "You said you're a pirate? Can I ask you what your objective is?" Luffy smiled widely. "I'm going to find One Piece," he declared, "which is why I'll go to the Grand Line." Jin remained silent for a moment before he spoke again. "If you're still looking for a cook, I'm assuming you don't have very many people on your crew yet, right?" Luffy nodded before shrugging towards Sanji. "With him, that makes 6. "Why are you counting me in?" Sanji protested. "You don't seem to be a bad guy. So let me give you a piece of advice," Jin said before looking at Luffy with his half-dead eyes. "Give up on going to the Grand Line." You're still young. No need to recklessly rush into things. He shook his head bitterly. Besides, the Grand Line is just one part of all the oceans in this world. If you want to be a pirate, there's plenty of other seas for you to roam out there. Oh, Luffy raised his eyebrow. What do you know about the Grand Line? No, I don't. Jin buried his head in his hands. I don't know anything. That's why it's so terrifying. Sanji snorted. For a member of the Krieg pirates, you sure are acting like a big scaredy cat. Who's Krieg? Luffy asked. He briefly remembered a golden man, but Dracula Mihawk was there, so he didn't really remember Krieg. Going Merry. Nami sighed as she walked out onto the deck of the Going Merry. Where's Luffy at? She asked. No clue, Usopp said. I haven't seen him since he left to apologize for the hole in the roof. Well, Kaya said as she closed her book, we should go and eat since we have the time. Agreed, Nami said. Somebody needs to wake up Zoro though. The three glanced over at the sleeping swordsman. You think he'll attack out of reflex? Kaya asked nervously. A minute later the four walked into the restaurant with Kaya nursing a bruise on Usopp's face. You didn't have to hit so hard. Usopp groaned. Whatever, Zoro grumbled, still half asleep. The group sat down at a table and waited to be served as they chattered amongst themselves. Half a minute later they heard yelling from the kitchen. Hot. Just get the hell out of the kitchen. Moments later Luffy was thrown through the kitchen doors before sliding to a stop a few feet from their table. Ah, Luffy said as he picked himself up, the life of an errand boy is tough. I can't believe that old geezer wanted me to do this for a year. He finished dusting himself off and looked up to see a very smug group. Ack, it's you guys. Hey errand boy. Nami said smugly. Heard you have to work here for a year. Kaya smiled, holding back her chuckles. Would it be alright to redraw the ship's flag? Zoro smirked. You're not able to be captain now. Usopp smiled widely. That means I'm the captain. Luffy gained a tick mark. You leave me here to work, he yelled, and you go off to eat delicious food all by yourselves. How selfish. It's a free world, Zoro reasoned as he looked around for a waiter. We can do whatever we want. Eat this. Luffy said lowly as he dropped a booger from his nose into Zoro's water, causing the others to struggle to keep from laughing. But I have to admit, the food here is great, Zoro said as he grabbed his cup and raised it near his mouth. Don't take this the wrong way, but you drink this glass. Zoro grabbed a hold of Luffy and forced him to down the water, booger and all. Ack! Luffy rolled around on the ground gripping his throat. How could you do this to me? I should ask you the same thing, Zoro yelled back as the rest of the crew struggled to breath between their laughter. Going merry, Luffy laid in his bed later that night thinking back on the day. He, somehow, ended up becoming an errand boy again, but it was okay. He got the crew to meet Sanji, though the blonde cook mainly focused on trying to woo Nami. Luffy cracked a smile at that though. Just like old times. He sighed. They would have to be much stronger this time around. With that thought in mind he got up and made his way into the kitchen to retrieve a knife before making his way onto the deck. Zoro and Usopp were doing a set of weight training as Luffy arrived to watch. After a couple of minutes of weightlifting the duo prepared to train their haki again, but Luffy interrupted them. Zoro, Luffy called out, I need to show you something. Zoro looked up at his captain. What's up Luffy? Luffy sighed as he leaned on the railing. No doubt you've heard about Dracula Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman being spotted around here, yes? Zoro tightened his fist a bit. Yes, he agreed. Something wrong with that? He narrowed his eyes. No, Luffy sighed. Nothing wrong. I just thought since you're planning to fight someone who is undoubtedly above your level then you may want to spar with someone else who is far above your level. Zoro narrowed his eyes even more as a scowl made his way across his face. So I propose a spar, Luffy said simply as he pulled out his small kitchen knife. Unfortunately, I do not have a blade smaller than this at the moment. Zoro angrily pulled out his swords. There's a limit to just how much you can underestimate me. He snarled as put his third sword between his teeth. Charging forward he yelled, you better not regret it when you die. Luffy sighed and twirled the knife around between his fingers, thinking back to the basic sword handling that Zoro eventually drilled into him. He was nowhere near the strength of Mihawk, but he was quite a bit above Zoro right now. He grit his teeth. This had to be down early or Zoro would have to pay for it later. He looked up at the charging whelming dominance for swordsmanship in the East. Blue has blinded you, Zoro. He straightened the knife in his hand. It's time for you to realize that the world is much bigger than you believe. Zoro snarled as he crossed his arms. Oni-gi. Zoro stopped suddenly as Luffy's knife shot forward towards him, impacting his swords in the only place that they crossed over. Zoro growled, tried to move his swords, but Luffy kept a constant pressure on them that Zoro couldn't compete against. This is ridiculous, Zoro muttered before taking half a step back to take the pressure off his swords. Arg! Zoro yelled as he launched a fierce assault on Luffy, who moving quickly blocked, dodged, or parried all of his blows before hitting all three with a right slash and sending Zoro stumbling to the ground. Such ferocity, Luffy complimented as Zoro resumed his assault. Such strength, but you have yet to experience true defeat. Luffy smiled sadly. Victory has defeated you. Luffy disappeared from Zoro's sight before the swordsman felt a cold pain in his chest. Zoro slowly looked down to see Luffy's knife cutting into his chest. It wasn't a deadly wound, or even a deep one. Luffy stopped himself from stabbing Zoro all the way, but Zoro knew his captain could have killed him. Luffy slowly started to push the knife deeper, but Zoro stood firm. Why do you refuse to step back? Luffy asked, his straw hat covering his eyes. Do you wish for me to pierce your heart? Beats me, Zoro coughed his answer. I'm not really sure myself, but I get the feeling that if I were to take even one step back right now, I'd lose something very important to me. A promise or oath or whatever. It would be irreversibly broken, and that I'd never be able to return back to where I'm standing right now. Yes, Luffy agreed grimly, such is defeat. Haha, Zoro laughed bitterly. Then that's why I can't step back. Even if it means your death? I'd much rather die, Zoro snarled. Luffy withdrew his knife from Zoro's chest. You possess conviction. Luffy said, to rather choose death than defeat. Luffy smiled. The kind of strength you have is not often seen in the world. He threw the knife to the ground. You are strong, Zoro, Luffy admitted, and each time you win you get stronger. Luffy pulled his straw hat off his head and ran his hands through his hair. But every now and then a humbling defeat is just what is needed to make you discover your true self, so that your strength will continue to grow. With that piece of advice given to Zoro, Luffy left his stunned crew and walked back inside. Elsewhere, miles away from the Going Merry on a damaged ship, a shadowed man sat on his chair. I see, he said, so that cook saved you life, and you were able to come back here. Why yes, another voice spoke up. But I never could have imagined that our mothership would be in this condition. The man stayed quiet for a second. Sir, he asked as he stepped forward into the light. Yes, what is it? The man in the chair asked. Allow me to guide you, sir, Jin answered, to Barati, the restaurant on the seas. Miles away from the sea restaurant on a damaged ship, a shadowed man sat on his chair. I see, he said, so that cook saved you life, and you were able to come back here. Why yes, another voice spoke up. But I never could have imagined that our mothership would be in this condition. The man stayed quiet for a second. Sir, he asked as he stepped forward into the light. Yes, what is it? The man in the chair asked. Allow me to guide you, sir, Jin answered, to Barati, the restaurant on the seas. Going Merry, Luffy sat on his bed, his eyes staring ahead at nothing. Zoro would be fine. Luffy knew he was stronger than this. He was thinking of the Zoro he knew at the end of his adventure though. He had barely known this Zoro for a week. What if he had pushed it too far? Luffy violently shook those thoughts out of his head as a quiet knock on his door gained his attention. Come in, he said, slipping a mask of happiness over his face. Slowly, almost reluctantly, the door opened to reveal Nami. A paper crumpled up in her fist. He quietly made her way inside and closed the door behind her. Sitting in a nearby chair, she wordlessly tossed the crumpled parchment to him. Luffy quirked his eyebrow, but wordlessly uncrumpled the paper to reveal a wanted poster for 20 million belly placed on the head of Arlong the Saw Shark Fishman. Luffy smiled as he looked at Nami again. So, he chuckled, I'm guessing you accepted my wordless offer to help? Nami slowly nodded her head and took deep breath. She then laid out her story for him. She told of her mother and her sister, she told of the violent takeover Arlong enacted, she told of the deal she had struck with Arlong to buy her village back. Nami stopped talking for a second near the end. Until now, she began, I've never had hope for seeing Arlong brought down. That all changed when I met you though. You with your crazy adventures and your awe-inspiring strength. The strength that somewhere along the line gave my heart hope again. Nami lowered her and tears began to pour out of her eyes. Luffy, she pleaded, help me. Luffy wordlessly placed his hat on her head before he gathered her into a hug. Of course I will, he said as he hugged her tightly. Nobody makes my Nakama cry and gets away with it. Nami nodded as she pressed her body into his and hugged with all her might, letting her tears flow freely. After a couple of minutes Nami quietly left the hug, rubbing her red, puffy eyes. Thank you, as she took his hat off and offered it to him. Luffy smiled warmly. Keep it, he said, until you feel better, no matter how long it takes. I want you to keep it. He reached up and gently wiped a few tears off her cheek. I hope it doesn't take long though, you're so much more beautiful when you're happy. Nami sniffled a couple of times as she put the hat back on. Thank you, she said again. Luffy smiled as he ran his fingers through his hair. Don't mention it, he smiled before his gaze landed on his door, though I think Zoro would like to talk to me now. He's been waiting for a couple of seconds. Nami straightened up, rubbed the remaining tears from her eyes, and smiled at Luffy again before she made her way out of the room, past Zoro, and out onto the deck. She smiled a little as she looked at the twilight sky from under the brim of the straw hat. She had told Luffy the truth when she told Luffy he had once again put hope into her heart, but she didn't tell her captain what else he was slowly putting in her heart. She took of the straw hat and gazed at it tenderly before hugging it. Maybe one day she would tell him, when things weren't so uncertain. Maybe one day soon she would tell him how she felt. Captain's quarters. Zoro watched as Nami quietly walked past him out of Luffy's room with the captain's precious straw hat on her head. Zoro hesitated a moment after she left before he entered Luffy's room. His chest wound throbbed as he stepped in. He shut the door and looked towards his captain. Luffy once again sat on his bed, his signature straw hat gone for now. He gestured towards the nearby chair, waiting for Zoro to sit. As soon as Zoro complied and sat down across from him, Luffy leaned forwards. How's the wound? Luffy began, gazing at the place he stabbed his swordsman. It's fine, Zoro replied. Kaya made a fuss over it and patched me up though. Luffy smiled and leaned back again. I assume you want to talk about the spar? Luffy asked. Zoro nodded slightly. I also want to learn how you got so strong. Luffy gazed at the swordsman as he continued. Never in my life have I been so easily outclassed. Especially by a man who I haven't seen use a blade before today. Luffy smiled a little. Before you ask, he said, no, I am not a swordsman. Zoro opened his mouth to protest but Luffy cut him off. I am not a swordsman. I just know how to use a blade well enough for some of the stronger people in the world. Zoro frowned at his captain's explanation. Luffy sighed as he clarified himself. What I mean is that there are opponents out there that cannot be defeated with your bare hands. Zoro shook his head. I still don't understand, but that doesn't explain how you became so good with a blade. Luffy groaned as he slumped forward. After a moment he lifted his head up again. 3 days. Luffy said, everything will be fully explained in 3 days. Zoro narrowed his eyes for a moment before he somewhat reluctantly nodded his head and stood up. You seem like an airhead most of the time. Zoro began as he looked at Luffy, but you seem to always know what needs to be said and when to say it. Zoro smiled a little. I got the message you were trying to send me. I have become overconfident and that overconfidence has become a handicap. He nodded appreciatively to his captain as he made his way over to the door. Opening the door, Zoro paused and turned back to Luffy. Anything else you want to add that may help me? He asked. Luffy chuckled as he sat up. A wise man once said that, a sword without grace is no strong sword. I'll let you figure out the meaning behind that. Zoro nodded again before he left the room, closing the door behind him. Luffy sighed and slumped forward. His plan for getting his crew stronger was only getting started and he was already tired of making changes. He knew that it was necessary though. The timeline had already started to change with Kaya's inclusion on the ship. He had to prepare his crew for anything. 2 days until Krieg was set to arrive. For those 2 days Luffy had established himself as the worst employee aboard the Bharati. He ate the customers' food as he was bringing it out. When he mopped the floors he left them wet, making everyone slip, slide and fall flat on their faces. His method of cleaning dishes involved breaking them into tiny pieces. Zoro had spent the 2 days training. The words Luffy had told him constantly running through his head. A sword without grace is no strong sword. With that in mind, Zoro had gone back to the basics, smoothing out his motions as he relearned all his sword strikes. He vowed to be ready to defeat Mihawk if he ever saw him. All too soon, the day arrived. Barati. Me leave? I'm the sous chef. Well, I'm the head chef, so I outrank you? You must have finally lost your mind, shitty geezer, Sanji said to his boss. No, I haven't. Zeph replied, your cooking sucks, you flirt with every girl you see, you fight with the customers and no one here likes you. Face it, Sanji, just leave, everyone will be much happier that way. Luffy leaned in next to Nami. Why does the old man sound like he wants Sanji to leave? I have no idea. Nami replied. Sanji then grabbed the old cook's collar. How dare you? Sanji growled. I don't give a damn if you insult me, but if you insult my cooking I'll open a can of whoopass on you. How dare you touch my collar? Zeph yelled as he performed a shoulder flip on Sanji, slamming him into the Straw Hat's table. Luckily the pirates saved the food from being ruined. You're a hundo, kick my ass, he said, turning around to leave. Who do you think taught you everything you know? I don't care how many times you tell me to leave, I'll serve as the sous chef here till you die. Too bad I'm not gonna die, Zeph said without turning around. I've got plans to life for 100 more years. Damn him, Sanji growled. I don't know what to say, but welcome to the crew, Luffy said to Sanji with a smile. What the hell? The Sanji yelled back. It sounds like you were just fired. Luffy replied. That means you can come with us now. I wasn't fired and I ain't quitting, and there's no way in hell I'm. The crash of a wine glass echoed around the restaurant. Krieg's pirates. The entire restaurant rushed to the window where the flagship of the Great Pirate was seen. The hourglass beside the skull means that time has run out for their enemies. There's no mistake. It's Krieg's pirates. Luffy looked up from the table whose meal he had just placed. Zoro, I knew something was going to happen today. Zoro looked up, his new meal ignored. That's why you told Usopp to move the ship to the other side of the restaurant, right? Yeah. Luffy smiled. Let's go get Sanji from the kitchen. He'll want to see this. Zoro looked at the rubber man oddly. He's our new chef. I can feel it. Sixth sense. Luffy nodded. Zoro chuckled. Your sixth sense is getting to be notorious throughout the crew. If you get a hunch about something, it will happen without fail. How do you do it? Luffy shrugged. It's a gift. Now, let's go. Luffy pushed open the swinging door to the kitchen. Sanji was there, practicing his art. Sanji. It looks like Jin brought back friends. Sanji nodded. I'll bet they're in the same condition he was in. Get a meal for one, to start. He'll bring in the captain first. Sanji nodded again. I'll get on it, Straw Hat. Luffy turned and walked out of the kitchen, to see Jin and Krieg pleading on the ground. Please, I beg you, leftover rice. Anything? Luffy drew his hand out of his pocket and flicked a gold coin at Patty's head. They're paying customers, Patty. Get to work. Patty threw the coin on the ground and spat on it. You go too far, chore boy. That's Don Krieg, the most wanted pirate in the East Blue. We're not feeding him a scrap. Out of the way, Patty. Sanji smashed the burly cook's face into the ground before approaching the groveling pirates. They're paying customers, Patty. Do you mean to refuse them? He held out the plate. Here, Jin. He can eat this. Krieg immediately snatched the plate away and began stuffing his face. Thank you. Carne pointed an accusing finger at Sanji. Sanji. Take that food away from him. Don't you know who he is? I don't care if he's foul play Krieg or the king of the pirates. The Bharati prides itself on not refusing paying customers. Luffy interjected. I've only worked here for 2 days, and I already know this. Sanji walked over to Luffy. I agree with the chore boy. Even without his generosity, the man would have paid. Krieg finished his mad scramble for food and stood up. The food was good. My strength is returning. Thank you, Straw Hat. Luffy tipped his hat. Krieg grinned. It's a real nice restaurant. I'll take it. Jin gaped at his captain, clearly not knowing about this new development. Luffy shook his head. Now, what kind of thanks is that? We feed you and then you steal our ride? That's not very nice. My flagship is a wreck. When I'm finished with you, I'll dump you. He gestured out to the massively scarred galleon. "There are about 100 men on my ship who still draw breath. They're dying from wounds, hunger and thirst. They need 100 rations of food and water. You will prepare them. Some of them have starved to death. There is no time to waste. You expect us to feed 100 pirates, so they have the strength to take over our ship. We refuse." Krieg did not move an inch. "Refuse? You don't understand. It's not a request." His eyes turned murderous. "It's an order. Do not defy me." Jin turned to his captain. "Captain, you said we were just coming here for the food. You said you wouldn't." Krieg smashed Jin to the ground. Jin spat out blood. "Quiet." Sanji and Luffy turned and started walking towards the kitchen. "Sanji, chore boy, you got us into this mess." Patty turned around and saw them retreating. "Where are you going?" "To the kitchen, of course," Sanji said, as if he was pointing out the weather. "We've got 100 meals to prepare," Luffy stated. The pistol of every cook in the room was instantly trained on them. Luffy shook his head. "Are you people truly cooks? Because cooks feed people. They do not judge them." Luffy spread his arms wide. "If you want to stop us, then shoot us." Sanji finished. The cooks flinched. Patty and Carne didn't. With a quick swing of their fists, the two were down on the ground, laid low. "Hold them down." Patty walked away from the two downed men. "Sanji, I know you feed the men that I chase off. Maybe you're right to do that sometimes. But this time, you're wrong, and chore boy, you've helped these scoundrels as soon as you got here. I don't know why, but it stops now. Now you two keep still. I'm going to defend this restaurant." He turned to Krieg. "He may be Don Krieg, but he's just one man. He can't beat all of us." He picked up a large cannon of some sort. "This is Barati. We deal with rowdy pirates every day. And we know just what customer service to give them." He leveled the cannon at the silent pirate. "You've eaten. Now here's your dessert, the meatball of doom." "Impudence," Krieg muttered as the cannonball struck him dead on. Patty drew up the cannon. Blast. "I busted the doors." Krieg walked out of the smoke and ruined doors, golden armor visible on his body. "That dessert was a bit heavy for my tastes. Hardly a 4-star meal." "Steel armor. What a dirty trick. Rush him." "Insolence," Krieg roared as guns appeared from out of nowhere on his armor. "No one defies Krieg. You worthless s. I am stronger than anyone." "Get down, you idiots," Luffy yelled as he whipped them all to the floor with his leg, just in time to avoid the machine guns that popped out from Krieg's armor. Krieg had his eyes closed so he didn't see what Luffy did as he shouted at them. "Arms of steel, stronger than any flesh." He flexed his arm. "An armor of the strongest steel, diamond fists to demolish anything. And a built-in array of weapons. I command 50 ships and 5,000 fighting men. I've never lost a battle. I am the Don of the Pirate Armada. If I tell you to prepare food, you shut up and do it. No one defies me." Clunk. A huge bag plopped down in front of Krieg. Zeph crossed his arms. "Chef Zeph. There's food for 100. Take it to your men." Don Krieg's eyes widened. "Zeph? Did you say Zeph? Chef? What are you thinking? If we feed those pirates, they'll come and overrun us." The chefs yelled in horror. Luffy stepped up. "Doubtful. They're all spineless cowards." The cooks reeled. "You went to the Grand Line, but you came back here with your tail between your legs." The tyrant of the Eastern Seas, who commands 50 pirate ships, couldn't handle the Grand Line. Krieg stared. "Your red leg, Zeph." He stared, then seemed to affirm his own claim. "Red leg, Zeph. So you're alive. A unique pirate," the captain cook. Zeph shrugged. "So what if I'm alive? What's it to you? Now I'm a chef exclusively." Krieg laughed. "Ha. You say it like it was a choice. But did you choose to be a cook, or was being a pirate too much for you?" He glanced down at the peg leg. "Where are your infamous red shoes now?" He looked around. "They say you died at sea. I see you didn't lose your life, but you did lose one of your precious legs." Zeph held up his hands. "I can't fight anymore, but I can cook, as long as I have these two hands." "What are you getting at? Spit it out." "He probably wants your logbook, boss. He wants to know how you sailed the Grand Line for a year and returned unscathed." Zeph looked at Luffy. "I won't give you or me and the men who sailed with me. That logbook is a testament. I won't give it to the likes of you." Then I'll take it from you. It's true that I didn't succeed on the Grand Line. But I am Don Krieg, the mightiest of them all. Weaklings do well to shun that dark route. But I had plenty of strength, men and ships, and ambition. The only thing I lacked was knowledge. That's what stopped me. Luffy snorted. You just had shitty bad luck going in. Tell me, how is it that you were destroyed utterly in 7 days? The entire room reeled back at the fact that Don Krieg and his mighty pirate armada was destroyed in 7 days. Oh, yeah, that's right. You interrupted Dracul Mahawk's nap. Zoro's head whipped up. All the knowledge in the world can't help you if you have the worst luck in the world. Don Krieg leveled his fist at him, all gun barrels on him rippling. Insolence. All the guns fired, aiming at Luffy. Chore boy. All the cooks in the vicinity yelled as Luffy took the bullets head on. An entire round of fire punctured into him. Luffy pitched forward, and stomped his foot on the ground. The restaurant watched with horrified fascination as the bullets stretched his skin back in several places, but they didn't wound him. I believe these are yours. Luffy grinned. Why don't I return them? His skin snapped back to normal and the bullets sprayed out at lightning-fast speed like a shotgun firing. The small pellets smashed into Don Krieg and sent him rolling out of the restaurant. The cooks were dead silent, before breaking out into raucous cheering. Chore boy, how do you do that? The chore boy sent Don Krieg flying. 3 cheers for the chore boy. Luffy grabbed the bag of food and started carrying it out to the ship. Chore boy, where are you going? To feed the crew. They are still starving. The chef stopped cheering immediately. You idiot, we've got the captain on the run. Why would we feed his crew so they can take over? Zeph smashed his peg leg on the ground. Shut up, you stupid eggplants. The cooks all turned to him. Has any of you truly been hungry before? Have you gone for days without food and water on the high seas? Do you have any idea what agony that is? Because Chef Zeph and Sanji know. They know it perfectly well. Luffy spoke. It's why they, along with myself, were the only ones here that were willing to help the pirates that are going to overrun this restaurant. Because they know what they went through. Jin sat on the ground, crying. I'm sorry, Sanji, chore boy, I had no idea it would come to this. He said he was just coming for food. Luffy walked out of the door. It's not your fault, Jin. He's foul play Krieg. He'll deceive anybody that he wants, if it furthers his ambitions. He's the kind of pirate that gives the rest of us honorable pirates a bad name. Luffy crouched down, and leapt all the way up to the ship. The moaning pirates laying about turned their heads to him and reached for their cutlasses, but flinched back as hunger pains overtook them. Luffy started handing out platters of food. Eat. I don't care if you're going to overrun this restaurant. It's a restaurant first and foremost. The entire crew scrambled to Luffy and the plates of food. With disgusting speed, the crew gulped the whole mess down. There. You full. Finally, the pirates howled. We're saved. They started dancing. We're back from the brink. It's a miracle. We've escaped our doom. The nightmare is over. Luffy smiled before heading back inside the restaurant. I can hear them coming, one of the cooks yelled as Luffy entered the restaurant again. Damn it, chore boy, another yelled. Why did you have to feed them? He grabbed an oversized fork. Brace yourself. This ship is our restaurant. Luffy sauntered over to Zoro and Usopp. Hey Usopp, he said, go tell everyone on the ship to prepare in case the battle spills over. Usopp shakily nodded his head before rushing off towards where they docked the ship. Luffy gestured for Zoro to follow as he made his way outside again. As they exited, the war cry of the Krieg pirates washed over them. Several pirates began to swing down from their ship to invade the restaurant. They were about to attack, only for Krieg's ship to be cut into 3 pieces. What was that just now? Krieg shouted in disbelief. Don Krieg, our ship, one of his pirates shouted. Our ship's been cut. Cut? What the hell do you mean cut? Krieg demanded. How can a huge galleon like this be cut? Wow, Luffy said, amazing. I'm glad we repositioned our ship. He smirked at Zoro, who just rolled his eyes. Raise the anchor. Zeph yelled, quickly or this ship's going to get dragged under. Just then from the other side Johnny and Yosaku came running as well. Guess she left, Luffy thought with a sigh as he saw the two running toward them with freaked out faces. What the hell's going on? The two screamed simultaneously. Where's Nami? demanded Luffy, ignoring their question. Nami, she's still on the ship. Wait, what? Asked Luffy in shock. She didn't leave? He quickly ran to the back of the Baratie to see Mary still docked and Nami running down to where everyone else was. As soon as he saw her, he erupted into a huge grin and tackled her in a hug. Luffy, what the hell are you doing? She asked, taken aback by the sudden invasion of personal space. You didn't leave, exclaimed Luffy, still hugging her. I still haven't made my mind up. Now shut up and let go of me, she yelled as she bonked him over his head. She, sorry, but I'm glad you didn't go, he smiled. Shut up, I said I didn't make up my mind yet. She, okay. Let me help you with it then. Watch this battle. I'll show you guys my true power. He went back to the front just in time to see Mihawk emerge from the wreckage. He was calmly sitting in his boat, looking extremely bored. Luffy noticed how Zoro stopped breathing for a second when he saw him. He stared in awe as Mihawk pulled out his sword and deflected bullets shot at him by Krieg's men. Zoro gave a quick look at Luffy, who nodded slightly before jumping in front of Mihawk. I've looked for you for a long time, said Zoro, excitement for the battle that was to come, rolling off of him in waves. What do you want? Asked Mihawk. To beat you, declared Zoro as he put his bandana on. You're free, right? Fight me. That's Roronoa Zoro of the Three Swords style, yelled Krieg's men in shock. I feel sorry for you. Even the best swordsmen don't fight me because they can sense the difference in power, Mihawk divulged, but he walked up to him nonetheless. You're strong-willed to fight me. Does it come from bravery or ignorance? He asked condescendingly. Luffy wondered if Zoro really couldn't tell the difference or was just too stubborn to acknowledge it. From my ambition and a promise to a friend. I didn't think I'd find you so early on. That doesn't benefit you, Mihawk pointed out as he took out his small necklace blade. The gesture made Zoro pause, his eyes growing angry slits as he glared at his opponent. What do you think you're doing with that? I am not one of those fools who hunts a rabbit with a cannon. This is the weakest sea. Unfortunately, I don't have a blade smaller than this on me, he explained, literally looking down at Zoro. I just thought since you're planning to fight someone who is undoubtedly above your level, then you may want to spar with someone else who is far above your level. Zoro narrowed his eyes even more as a scowl made his way across his face. So I propose a spar, Luffy said simply as he pulled out his small kitchen knife. Unfortunately, I do not have a blade smaller than this at the moment. Zoro's eyes drifted over to Luffy, who was watching from the deck of the Barty, before scowling and unsheathing his swords and putting Wado Ichimonji in his mouth. There would be plenty of time to question his captain later. For now though, he had a long-awaited fight. I am not one of those fools who hunts a rabbit with a cannon. This is the weakest sea. Unfortunately, I don't have a blade smaller than this on me, Mihawk explained, literally looking down at Zoro. I just thought since you're planning to fight someone who is undoubtedly above your level, then you may want to spar with someone else who is far above your level. Zoro narrowed his eyes even more as a scowl made his way across his face. So I propose a spar, Luffy said simply as he pulled out his small kitchen knife. Unfortunately, I do not have a blade smaller than this at the moment. Zoro's eyes drifted over to Luffy, who was watching from the deck of the Barty, before scowling and unsheathing his swords and putting Wado Ichimonji in his mouth. There would be plenty of time to question his captain later. For now though, he had a long-awaited fight. Zoro versus Mihawk. Zoro took the initiative and rushed towards the motionless Mihawk. The greatest swordsman sighed as he watched Zoro approach. You're just a person who has never seen the real world, he said as he raised his knife. Oni, Mihawk, almost lazily thrust his knife forward. Jiri, Zoro's swords locked together in the middle of his move, stopping his forward momentum and leaving him stuck, or at least it would have if Luffy hadn't shown him this particular weakness 2 days prior. Toro, with what little momentum he had left, Zoro swung along the outside of Mihawk's arm, pushing the small blade away from him as he went. Mihawk adjusted his grip and pushed back down, forcing Zoro's swords down and throwing off his center of balance. Zoro grit his teeth and leaned forward, Wado Ichimonji arcing towards Mihawk's stomach. Mihawk smirked and redirected Zoro's momentum so that he missed hitting Mihawk by a hair's breadth, nicking his shoulder as he passed him for good measure. Nagashi. All of this happened faster than most people there could see. To the likes of Luffy and Mihawk though, it was almost painfully slow. Zoro growled in frustration. He had thought Luffy was good when he had defeated him, but compared to Mihawk he could tell his captain was sloppy. A sword without grace is no strong sword. Mihawk was the epitome of grace. Zoro had seen it when he had redirected a bullet with the tip of his sword. He took a deep breath as he prepared to engage Mihawk again. It wouldn't help if he lost his cool. Strength wouldn't help him here, only skill. He readjusted his grip before rushing forward again. No named attacks this time. Only strikes he had practiced to perfection when developing the three-sword style. One after another, smoothly transitioning between his swing, never giving his opponent any time. It wasn't enough though. Mihawk's knife drifted in and out of his defense, blocking with minimal effort and darting into weak spots of his form, drawing a small amount of blood before darting back out. "What crazy skill you've got," Mihawk idly commented as Zoro continued to throw all he had at the man. "What is your mission?" Mihawk asked. "Why do you seek the ultimate power, you weakling?" "You called our senpai a weakling, stupid?" Zoro heard Johnny yell from the Baratie deck. "We had to teach you a lesson." Yosaku joined in the yelling. "Stop," Luffy growled, grabbing a hold of the two and pinning them down. "Don't get involved, we have to be patient." Zoro's eyes flicked over towards his captain, and in that instant Mihawk redirected his strikes downward and sent Zoro tumbling away. "I can't afford to lose," Zoro yelled as he got to his feet. He repositioned his two swords over Wado Ichimonji as he prepared his next attack. Toragari. Zoro didn't ever see Mihawk move before. For the second time that week a blade found its way into his chest. His arms lowered a bit as the shock hit him, but he stayed standing strong. "Do you want this knife to go through your heart?" Mihawk asked. "Why aren't you stepping back?" "Beats me," Zoro said, echoing his answer from 2 days ago. "I'm not really sure myself, but I get the feeling that if I were to take even one step back right now, I'd lose something very important to me. A promise or oath or whatever. It would be irreversibly broken, and that I'd never be able to return back to where I'm standing right now." "Right," Mihawk stated, "and that is called losing." "Haha," Zoro laughed bitterly, "that's why I can't step back. Even if it means you will lose your life, I'd much rather die," Zoro snarled. Mihawk studied Zoro, searching for something. Seeming to find it, he pulled his knife from Zoro's chest. "Tell me your name, kid," Mihawk ordered. "Roronoa Zoro." "I'll remember that," Mihawk said, sheathing his knife. "I haven't met someone with such a strong will like you for a long time." Mihawk's hand drifted to the hilt of his sword and swiftly drew it. "To repay that I will use the Black Blade, Yuru, the strongest sword in this world, to end your life." Zoro nodded as he prepared his current strongest technique. He held his two swords in front of him at an angle against each other and started to slowly rotate them, building up speed as the rotation continued. "This is it," Zoro thought. "This is my final move. If I miss, it will cost me my life. I have to choose between becoming an invincible swordsman or death. A final shot with all of my soul behind it." Zoro's swords darkened slightly as he began to imbue them with haki. "Die," Mihawk said as he dashed towards him. Three-sword style secret skill, 3,000 worlds. Mihawk's eyes widened as three black swords came into contact with his own black blade. Strong will indeed, Mihawk smirked. It was no use though. Zoro didn't know how to use haki effectively yet. The two swords in his hand shattered as the two swordmen clashed. Blood erupted from Zoro's chest as Mihawk cut into him, and just like that it was over. Slowly and silently, Zoro sheathed Wado Ichimonji and turned around, presenting an open target for Mihawk. "What are you doing?" Mihawk asked. "It's shameful for a swordsman to be hit from behind," Zoro answered. "Splendid," Mihawk said, before his black blade cut a deep diagonal wound into Zoro's chest. Zoro had barely begun to fall when his captain was there to catch him, gently laying him down on the deck. Mihawk gazed impassively at the youth with a familiar straw hat and what seemed to be steam rising off his skin. The boy was far faster than anyone in this weak sea had any right to be. "Interesting," Mihawk commented. "Damn you," Luffy yelled at Mihawk. He could tell that Zoro was still alive, but seeing him this badly wounded brought back bad memories. "Are you that swordsman's friend?" Mihawk asked. "Do you want to fight too?" Luffy raised his arms in response. His left opened palm in front of him and his right balled into a fist behind. That's good, you can learn this lesson wi. Gomu Gomu no. Mihawk's eyes widened, this kid had a devil fruit it seemed. Jet pistol. Luffy's fist slammed into the spine of Yuru, which Mihawk had used to block the blow. The weight behind the punch sent him sliding back a few feet. Mihawk focused all his attention on Luffy. This kid, he silently marveled. Luffy disappeared in a burst of speed again and Mihawk extended his observation haki around him to locate the teen. He swung around and caught Luffy's fist on the edge of the black blade. He didn't cut into him though, because Luffy's fist was coated in a dark sheen of armament haki. Haki too? Mihawk observed in surprise. Very interesting. Mihawk commented once again before locking eyes with Luffy. Don't worry, he said, your friend is still alive. Luffy's gaze shifted over to Zoro, who was being treated by a frantic Kaya. I am Dracule Mihawk, he addressed the wounded Zoro, it is too soon for you to die. You have to learn more about the world, and discover your true self. You have to become stronger Roronoa Zoro. No matter how long it will take, I will always be the greatest swordsman in the world and will be waiting for you. You have to practice both your skill aim stronger. Dare to challenge me again. Roronoa Zoro. Mihawk turned to address Luffy. What is your goal? To become the Pirate King. Luffy answered simply and without hesitation. Mihawk scoffed. What a stupid dream, he said, it means that you have to become stronger than me, you know. I don't care. Luffy growled, I will become Pirate King, just you wait and see. Their attention was suddenly drawn towards the wounded Zoro, who was holding Wado Ichimonji above him. Luffy, Zoro coughed out, see can you hear me? Yes. From now on I won't lose to anyone ever again, Zoro declared, until I can defeat that man and become an invincible swordsman I won't lose again. Do you have any problem with that, Pirate King? She, nope. Luffy grinned. You two are a very good team, Mihawk commented, I hope that I will see you again. As Mihawk turned to leave an arrogant voice rang out. Hey, Hawkeye, Don Krieg shouted, don't you want my head now? The head of Don Krieg, the greatest pirate of East Blue. I've thought of that, Mihawk replied, but I've had enough fun for today. I will go back to sleep now. Why are you saying something so mean? Krieg asked, cockily sauntering forward, even though you've had enough fun, I have not. Captain Krieg. His crew cried, why are you stopping that man from going back? Krieg ignored his crew and revealed his gun array built into his armor, 2 guns below each shoulder pad and 3 on either side of his waist, as well as 1 gun as each hand. Before you go back, die! Krieg yelled, firing all of his weapons at once. Fool, Mihawk scoffed, grabbing his sword again, haven't you learned your lesson? In a blur he drew his sword and an explosion of air and water concealed his form. Goodbye, his words floated from the mist, which cleared to show that he was gone. He escaped, Krieg said, gritting his teeth. His eyes swung towards the restaurant, maybe they would prove to be entertaining. Here they come now, Sanji sighed, the parasites. Hey mister, Luffy called out to Zeph, if I can chase those people away, I don't have to work here anymore, okay? Head chef Zeph sighed, do whatever you want to do. Even if some stupid people get involved, it's no big deal for me, Krieg said, I've already thought of leaving this stinky ship. So look at that cute little ship closely. His men gazed at the Bharati as he continued. If we can get that ship, the Grand Line will be no problem for us. When we want to attack the enemies, we put up a white flag, and that will get us closer to the enemies. Then, we can attack the enemies before they know, and that will make our job easier. I see, no one will think that cute little ship is a pirate ship. One of his men said, his eyes lighting up. There are many pirates in this ocean, so it's not hard at all for me to build up new troops, Krieg said. What if we go to the Grand Line and meet someone dangerous, like that Hawkeye man? Again, a scared pirate yelled out. Without warning Krieg shot the dissenter. You're that afraid of him? Krieg yelled. You think that a normal human being can cut that giant ship into pieces? What do you mean? A confused pirate spoke up. It means that it's the power of a devil fruit. Seeing his crew's confusion, Krieg explained. According to legend, there are some people who have eaten a devil fruits and gained strange powers, and those people are in the Grand Line. When that man cut our ship, he must have used some kind of strange power. So, in the Grand Line his is just a simple pirate, but Zeph, the red leg. He has stayed in the Grand Line for 1 year. That means he must have known some way to fight these people. Those strategies must be recorded in his journal. Maybe there will also be information of the One Piece. I see. A crew member said, "You are really smart, Captain. If we get that ship in the journal, we can conquer the ultimate treasure," Krieg said. "Let's go and take that ship," Krieg ordered. "Yes, sir," his crew shouted. "Here they come." Luffy grinned and turned towards Zeph. "Hey mister," he called out, "it is a deal?" "It's a very good deal," Zeph replied, "because if you stay here for 1 year, you would destroy my restaurant." "Good." Luffy grinned before walking towards the charging pirates. "Hey!" Sanji yelled, rushing forward. "What do you think?" Sanji jerked back as Zeph grabbed a hold of him. "Wait," Zeph instructed. "For what?" Sanji asked, glancing worriedly at Luffy. "Something I've only seen on the Grand Line," Zeph answered. Sanji focused on Luffy as he drew ever closer to the charging pirates. Waiting. Nothing was happening and they were almost there. Watch oh. Sanji's breath involuntarily left his body. It was unnaturally quiet. His vision blurred for a second, and then, time restarted. Sanji gasped for breath as every single enemy pirate dropped to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut. And in the middle was Luffy, never breaking stride as he continued onto the only remaining pirate, Don Krieg. "Who are you?" Krieg demanded, wide-eyed. "Monkey D. Luffy," Luffy responded. "I'm the man who will become king of the pirates." Don Krieg grit his teeth. "Over my dead body," he yelled as his armor sprouted an array of guns from his sides and under his shoulder pads. A pistol in each hand. "Now die." All of his weapons fired at once, 14 rounds per second, obliterating the place Luffy was standing. "No!" Sanji yelled, wide-eyed. He glanced desperately towards the Straw Hat crew, but was taken aback at how unaffected they were from their captain's death. Unless... Sanji glanced back as Krieg stopped firing. "You missed." Krieg froze as the whispered comment came from behind him. He began to spin around. Gomu no, but it was too late. Pistol. Krieg's shiny golden armor shattered as the dawn shot off into the distance, bouncing a couple times before he crossed the horizon and left everyone's view. Silence once again fell as everyone stared at the young captain with the straw hat. Luffy stood there for a moment staring at his fist before turning and walking into the restaurant. "I'm hungry," he called out behind him as he disappeared inside. It took another 20 seconds for the silence to break. What the hell was that, inside Barati? Luffy sighed as he looked back down at his still clenched fist, before releasing it and flexing his hand. He hadn't realized how weak he was. He'd been abnormally strong for the East Blue the first time he came through, and this time he had foreknowledge and years of fighting experience at the peak of the world. Obviously it'd be easy for him to get through the East Blue again. The problem was that he wasn't strong enough for what came after. He definitely wouldn't be ready to take on Blackbeard at Mocktown. His body wasn't ready. He was weak. He had noticed it immediately when fighting Mihawk. He was slower. He was less powerful. His spirit was out of sync with his body, throwing off his higher-level hockey techniques. He wasn't even sure he could enter his higher-level devil fruit forms. He needed to start training, and hard. He was running out of time. Luffy stood up abruptly and returned his attention to his surroundings. Zoro was standing in front of him. "We need to talk," they both said in stereo. Without another word they left towards the Going Merry. A plate of food laid unnoticed on the table. His body wasn't ready. He was weak. He had noticed it immediately when fighting Mihawk. He was slower. He was less powerful. His spirit was out of sync with his body, throwing off his higher-level hockey techniques. He wasn't even sure he could enter his higher-level devil fruit forms. He needed to start training, and hard. He was running out of time. Luffy stood up abruptly and returned his attention to his surroundings. Zoro was standing in front of him. "We need to talk," they both said in stereo. Without another word they left towards the Going Merry. A plate of food laid unnoticed on the table, on the Going Merry. Luffy and Zoro silently contemplated each other in the captain's quarters. Luffy didn't know how to start the conversation. Zoro had a question though. One that had been burning in him for a while though. "How do you know so much?" Luffy sighed and sat back on his bed before reconsidering Zoro. "How much do you know about the world?" Luffy asked back. "Bar gossip," Zoro replied. "Mostly boring stuff. But I know who the people at the top are. That's how I found out about Mihawk. And what do you know about devil fruits? Luffy asked. Not much, Zoro admitted. They give you abilities but you can't swim. There are 3 types of devil fruits, Luffy explained. Zone turns you into an animal. Logia turns you into an element and you can't be touched without haki, and Paramecia gives you random abilities. And you have a Paramecia? Zoro said. Yes, Luffy answered, but there's this other Paramecia called the Nikyu no Mi. And what can it do? Zoro asked. Many things, Luffy answered. Broadly speaking it can reject things, but one if it powers. Luffy paused and focused intently on Zoro. What do you know about time travel? Zoro internalized the question and considered Luffy closely. A long moment passed before Zoro finally answered. What is something only I could have told you? He asked. Kuina. Luffy answered solemnly. Zoro inhaled quickly in surprise, before exhaling slowly and leaning back against the wall. Okay, he answered. Why did you come back? Luffy sighed deeply. Last time, the faces of his dead crews flashed through Luffy's mind and he took a shuddering breath before continuing. Last time we didn't survive. Luffy's eyes sharpened in anger as he remembered why. Though as this madman, he killed everyone and destroyed the world. His eyes focused back on Zoro. I came back with one goal. I smiled, throwing Zoro off. I'm going to become Pirate King, he explained, and this man is standing in my way. Zoro regarded his captain. Who is he? Marshal D. Teach. Later, Zoro laid thoughtfully on the deck of the ship, contemplating what he had learned. Luffy had be spare with the details of the future, wanting him to experience the adventure it happened. He also said that he didn't want Zoro getting relaxed, because things were already starting to change. Kaya. Zoro sighed deeply again. On the bright side, Luffy was kicking up his training. Outside of the Baratie, Luffy jumped up onto the deck of the restaurant, landing in front of Sanji. Hey Sanji. Luffy greeted. What are you doing? Smoke break, Sanji replied. Geezer gets mad when I smoke inside. Ah, yeah. Luffy remembered, I'm finally done with being an errand boy as of today, 'cause of that promise I made with the old man. Right, Sanji grinned, congratulations. So then, Luffy smiled at Sanji, you wanna? I ain't gonna be a pirate, Sanji interrupted. I'm going to stay here and be a cook, until the day that damn geezer acknowledges my cooking. He looked at Luffy and smiled wide. Hey, do you about the all blue? Luffy smiled and lied. No, from the balcony above Zeph watched Sanji and Luffy. It had been a while since Sanji had been so animated. Inside the Baratie, a while later Luffy and Sanji entered the employee dining hall. Where's the food? Luffy wondered, scanning the dining hall. Sanji frowned. Where's our seats? There ain't no chairs for you, a chef answered. Heh, yeah. Laughed another, you're going to have sit on the floor. What? This is a freaking restaurant, how do we? He sighed deeply before following Luffy to the food table. Fine, whatever. Something strange about them. Luffy noted. They're always strange, Sanji replied. Hey, a chef yelled, standing up. Who was in charge of making this morning's soup? Oh, that'd be me, Sanji smiled. Pretty good, right? I made it especially G. How the hell am I supposed to eat this crap? The chef yelled, smashing the bowl to the ground. Sanji growled and slowly stood up. Hey, does good food not satisfy you? The chef scoffed, this is pure crap of the highest quality. It makes me want to puke. Did you put your actual shit in this or what? I'm perfectly confident about my soup, Sanji growled. Maybe it's your damn tongue duh. Yuck, another chef yelled, spitting soup out. Ew, this is terrible. Another chef stood up and threw his soup on the ground. Just throw it out. No way we can eat this filth. The hell do you think you're all doing? Sanji yelled. Another crash sounded behind Sanji, who swiveled around furiously. Geezer, he growled. Zeph pointed down at the soup all over the ground at his feet. What's with this disgusting soup? Is it supposed to taste like sludge or what? We'd go out of business if we served this to customers. Don't joke with me you damn geezer, Sanji yelled, grabbing Zeph. How is this any different from the soup you make? Sanji demanded. Well, speak up. The soup I make, Zeph growled. A strong right hook caught Sanji off guard, throwing him onto the ground. Don't get cocky, Zeph yelled, standing over Sanji with his fist raised. "It's 100 years too early for a lil eggplant like you to be comparing my soup with yours. I'd have cooked all around the world." Sanji stared up angrily at Zeph. "Damn it," he yelled, before stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The room was silent as Luffy sipped on his soup. "This soup is pretty good if you ask me," Luffy commented. One of the chefs sighed and rubbed his neck. "Yeah, we know. Everyone here knows how good Sanji's cooking is." But, Zeph spoke up, "If we didn't do that, then that idiot would never listen to us." Zeph looked at Luffy. "Hey kid. Would you mind taking that lil eggplant with you? Take him to the Grand Line with you, it's his dream." "No," Luffy answered. "What?" Zeph growled. "Didn't you want cook for you ship? Are you not satisfied with him?" "It's not like that," Luffy said. "I do want him to come, but he said he wanted to stay here and be a cook." "So you won't accept unless he says it himself?" "Yup." "Well," Zeph sighed, "you do have a point, but the problem is whether that rebellious brat will be honest with himself or not." Everyone's attention shot towards the door as someone entered. Nami stood at the door, with Sanji right behind you. "Hey Nami," Luffy grinned. "What's up?" "The ship is ready to go," Nami answered. "Is everyone ready?" Luffy asked, his eyes flicking between Nami and Sanji. "Yes, we all are," Nami answered with a small smile. "Great," Luffy smiled reassuringly at her. "Let's go then." "Wait," Sanji said as Luffy stood. "I'll go too. Take me with you." Luffy's smile grew as Sanji continued. "I'll accompany you on your journey to becoming the Pirate King." After all, Sanji grinned. "We both have crazy dreams, so I'll tag along to fulfill mine. I'll be the cook for your ship, sound good?" Luffy threw his arms up and cheered. "Sounds great." Luffy ran out of the room, pulling Nami by the hand behind him. "I'll go tell everyone." Sanji grinned as he watched his captain go. His attention turned back towards the other cooks. "That's how it's gonna be, guys," he said. "Sorry for all the trouble I put you through." Zeph smirked. Later, on the Going Merry, D out at the sea smiling. "Hey," Nami greeted as she leaned up against the railing beside him. "Hey Nami," Luffy grinned. "What's up?" "Just thinking," Nami said, her eyes focused on the horizon. "About your home?" Luffy inquired quietly. Nami sighed, "Yeah." Luffy gently placed his hand on hers, drawing her attention. "Hey," he said reassuringly. "This nightmare will be over soon." He squeezed her hand for comfort. "This will all be over soon." "Hopefully not all of it," Nami said, blushing and looking down towards their hands. "I like this crew." Luffy smiled widely. "And we like you." Nami's blush deepened, but before anything else could be said their attention was drawn towards a commotion. "Jin?" Luffy asked. "What are you doing?" Jin had taken a knee in front of Luffy. "I formally request to join your crew."